Chapter 1 Pilgrimage. This is the full story of the Knights of the Nine DLC for the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. When travelling throughout Cyrodiil, the hero may overhear NPCs discussing a new topic regarding a terrible attack on the Chapel of Dibella located in Anvil.
They say that the priests and priestesses of the Chapel of Dibella have all been murdered. No one even knows who did it.
Apparently, no one has any idea who did it. Now there's some prophet preaching doom in the streets of Anvil.
The servants of Dibella, slaughtered on the very altar of love. Truly shocking.
No!
The prophet topic will then be available in rumours for almost every male NPC barring Bretons and the Daedric races, and all female Imperials in the game, including those created for the Shivering Isles expansion and other official plugins. Approaching a local guard in the Imperial City's market district, they will further reveal.
Anvil is all in an uproar. First the chapel attacked, now the prophet ranting about the end of the world. Stay safe, citizen. These are dark times.
Dark times indeed. We can then head to the western coastal city of Anvil to further investigate, and it's there its guard will confirm the dark rumour spreading.
By the time we got there, it was too late. We have no idea how they got in or out without any of our patrols seeing them.
It's then the pilgrimage quest is officially added to our journal.
Be seeing you.
Making our way just over the bridge to the chapel, the entry reads, I've heard rumours of an attack on the Chapel of Dibella in Anvil. No one seems to know what happened, but all the priests and priestesses were killed and the altars were desecrated. It might be worth going to Anvil to see for myself. As promised, when we enter the city gates, we see to the east, the prophet is ranting his sermon to passers-by.
Is there no one who would stand for the Nine? The blood tide rises.
Curiosity, however, gets the better of us, and as we move to step inside the great temple, the guard out front intercepts us, saying,
I wouldn't go in there unless you have a strong stomach. We have orders to leave everything just the way it was until the investigation into the chapel attack is finished.
It's then we inquire, what happened here? And he replies,
It's baffling. How anyone could have gotten in and out of there without being seen by our patrols is beyond me. Maybe that prophet is right. Some kind of unholy doom visited upon us.
Tell me, what do you know about this prophet?
He preaches most of the day across the street from the chapel. I used to think he was crazy, but now he seems to be making some kind of sense. I hope that doesn't mean I'm going crazy now.
So, a once thought crazy prophet's predictions have come true. The attacker's entry and identity remain a mystery, and soon we see why as we step inside the chapel's great doors. Entering the Chapel of Love, we see it is far from Dibella's ideals. The floor is spattered with thick goblets of blood, and the interior, a ruin of pews upended, and thick smoke hangs high in the air. Worse than the physical desecration is the slaughter of Dibella's acolytes. So, in a morbid meeting, we can see what they were like before their unpleasant demise at whatever force cut their lives short. Starting to the right, slumped over a pew, is a Bosma Laralthir. In life, she was the temple healer, and upon meeting her, she would introduce herself as well as show envy towards the Countess.
How goes it?
Me, I'm just Laralthir. I wish I were the Countess of Anvil, to tell you the truth. That Malona Umbranach, she's got it made.
Asking about Anvil, she will go on about town life, saying,
Restless folks like you don't much like town life. Too slow and easy. For you, the life of the rover, gold and glory, blood and treasure. Take care.
If only she knew the horror in store for her. Momentarily moving past the shrine to the northwestern wall, we find next to an upturned lamp, a Redguard woman in a green and blue dress Travaya lying face down in a pool of her own blood. When you approach her in life, she would introduce,
"Give yourself to love, pilgrim. I'm Travaya, priestess of Dibella, and this is Anvil's Chapel of Dibella."
When asking her about Anvil, she will explain her duties in the chapel.
Dibella has shed her special blessings on Anvil. We greet travelers with hospitality and the needy with an open hand.
A sad state that the followers of Dibella greeted once by open hands, yet their hospitality was cut short with a closed fist. And finally, we head to the main altar in the center of the chapel, with words scrawled in unknowable symbols, which we will soon learn their true meaning, but for now we focus on the poor Dumania Jirich, splayed out on the altar in a mocking fashion in a pool of her own blood that soaks into her upper-class red velvet attire. In life, Jirich was an imperial priestess and primate of the chapel. Ironically, one of her many duties was tending to the graveyard, where she would rake its lawn and care for the dead, which she soon would be joining. Upon meeting her, she would introduce,
Dumania Jurich, primate of Anvil, I speak with the voice of Dibella and greet you with love.
When asked about Anvil, she prefers to talk more about herself, adding,
They say that I was selected as Dibella's primate in large part because of my loving nature and my striking looks.
Yes, striking looks.
Bye.
That's Oblivion for you. Before we leave the ruined temple, it's worth noting there is a surprising bounty of clues as to the mysterious culprit behind the massacre. However, moving around the Undercroft, as it is filled with sanctified dead even before the DLC is installed, instead we can head to the main hall. Within, you can find more books giving backstory to the many characters in the DLC, including the Song of Pelinal Volumes 1 through 8, Shazar and the Divines, and the Abadala. Collectively, these books impart a tale about a champion of the gods, Pelinal Whitestrake, and his story is entwined with our very quest, so for clarity and expediency's sake, I will give an abridged version. During the First Era, humanity was all but enslaved by the Aliads. A Nedic woman, later dubbed Alessia the Slave Queen, would lead humanity in a rebellion against the elves during this time. It is said Pelinal emerged into Nirn like a Patamaic, carried by Sithis and all other forces of change. Described by his friend Morihaus as an Ardor or spirit, Pelinal plays the same role as a long line of avatars sent by Shaw to champion the cause of mankind and stop the elves from destroying them. Pelinal, however, is an exception, as he exhibits significant bonds to Akatosh as well, as he had the Amulet of Kings embedded in his very chest in place of his heart, leading people to question if he was in fact a spirit, a cyborg, or something else entirely, as many stories during the Merethic era were composed of myth entwined with fact. Pelinal also happened to possess the Crusader's relics, which were gifted to him by the 8 Divines, yet his aid came at a price. Legends say Pelinal often had stretches of homicidal madness, during which he slew indiscriminately and took a toll on the very landscape itself, and, unfortunately for the Khajiit, mistook their kind for the hated elves and slaughtered them wholesale. At the culmination of the war, Pelinal, who had killed many Aliads, had then breached the White Gold Tower, and it was there Umaril, the unfeathered, challenged him to a duel. Umaril, the sorcerer king, was said to be half elf, half god. He, with the other Aliads of Cyrodiil, worshipped the Daedric prince Meridia and was named the champion of her Aurorans and imbued with immortality. Pelinal, outraged by other rebel leaders' hesitation to attack White Gold Tower, went in alone to confront Umaril. However, upon his arrival, Umaril first weakened Pelinal by sending in soldiers whom he had been saving for that moment, knowing full well that they would die. It was only after Pelinal was bleeding and wounded that Umaril finally came down to fight him. Now, Pelinal slew Umaril nonetheless, but his victory was short-lived. The other elf kings descended upon him and cut him into 8 pieces in mockery of the 8 divines and carried them away, leaving only his head as a gift to Alessia. His head was later found by his Minotaur friend Morihaus, and it was then Pelinal would regret to inform him that he had learned the bitter truth too late, that Umaril would one day return and Pelinal would not be able to stop him. For more on Pelinal, there are actually great videos online, plus a kick-ass opera I will link at the end of the video. Now, armed with the knowledge of Pelinal's story and after performing sufficient research, we exit the chapel and finally cross the street to listen to the prophet's rant atop the steps.
Is there no one who would stand for the 9? Oh, unhappy Tamriel! Where is your Divine Crusader in these latter days of petty strife and lesser men?
The prophet boasts a formidable amount of dialogue and lore, and so for expediency's sake, the entire speech will be played at the end of the video. Approaching him, he says,
So, another one who has come to listen to the madman's rantings?
It's then we can learn the identity of the mysterious Anvil Chapel attacker.
This is only the beginning. Umaril has returned as foretold by Pelinal Whitestrake in his dying breath.
As some of the responses are out of sequence, I've rearranged the conversation to make more sense, and we ask, who is Umaril?
He was defeated but not destroyed by Pelinal the Crusader. Now he has returned to seek vengeance against the gods. Only a true knight, wielding the holy relics of the Divine Crusader, has a chance to defeat Umaril.
Learning more about the Ayleid Sorcerer King's backstory, we ask, Umaril, who's that?
Umaril the Unfeathered, the Sorcerer King of the Ayleids, who ruled over this land for long ages before the rise of men. He was cast down by Pelinal Whitestrake, but Umaril's spirit survived, and now he has returned to seek vengeance upon the gods.
Who is this Pelinal Whitestrake?
Does no one remember the old tales? Saint Pelinal, the Divine Crusader of legend, Alicia's companion when she overthrew the rule of the Ayleids 3,000 years ago. Pelinal, with the aid of the gods, fought the Ayleid sorcerer King Umaril and slew him. But Umaril's spirit survived, and he has now returned.
Although we want to learn how Umaril has returned, our only option is to respond quite bluntly as we demand. Just tell me who attacked the chapel.
Do you understand nothing? The blood speaks. I can read the ancient runes if you cannot. As uibala, umarale el nada rakuva. In the Ayleid tongue, by the eternal power of Umaril, the mortal gods shall be cast down. A curse upon Umaril's ancient foes, and a threat.
The mortal gods? Is that why he gleefully desecrated the Chapel of Dibella? Tell me, old man, how do we stop Umaril?
Alas, Umaril cannot be stopped. Not without the aid of the gods, not without the Crusader's relics. Without a champion, the gods are powerless to act. But who among us is worthy to wield the Divine Crusader's weaponry?
It's then we have the opportunity to limp out of the quest as it's too much of an undertaking to bear and say, I'm sorry, I don't know who will stop Umaril, and he will respond accordingly.
Nor do I. Oh, my people! Who will save you from destruction? Is there none now worthy to be your crusader?
If instead we heed the call for the righteous crusader, we will say, I will quest for the relics.
You would quest for the holy panoply of Pelinal Whitestrake? The legendary relics that have been sought by mighty warriors throughout the ages? Are you a worthy knight?
As a really cool part of the quest, you can respond depending on your infamy and fame, but also your faction will garner different responses from the prophet. So we can say, yes, I am a worthy knight.
That is usually best left to the gods to judge.
It should be noted, regardless of your public standing, if you do boast about one of your factional ranks, whether believing you to be immodest or not in need of his help in getting started, the prophet will turn you away. Such as if you say, yes, I am the hero of Kavach.
Well then, hail, hero of Kavach! Let me add one more voice to the never-ending chorus of praise. I'm sure one of your many devotees will be able to guide you on your way to find the Crusader's relics.
I take it back, he's clearly mocking us. We can say, post completing the main quest, yes, I am the champion of Cyrodiil.
And never let anyone forget it, champion. I salute you, yes. This small matter of the Crusader's relics would be a trifle for a legend such as yourself.
Completing the Fighters Guild questline, we say, in our burliest tone, yes, I am the Fighters Guild Master.
I apologize for even asking the question. Most esteemed master, please. Do not allow me to interrupt your quest for the relics.
Completing the Mage's Guild questline, we can say, yes, I am the Archmage.
And a worthy successor to Hannibal Traven, I have no doubt. I'm sure your arcane arts will locate the lost relics for you in no time.
As the listener for the Dark Brotherhood, we respond, no, I serve Sithers.
Indeed. And yet you would seek the holy relics. The gods will find you an interesting plaything, I have no doubt.
As the head of the Thieves Guild, we have a cheeky response of, not unless the Grey Fox is a knight.
An honest thief? I'll leave it to the priests of Zenithar to debate that paradox with you.
Now that we've learned bragging about titles does nothing, we can actually say, no, I have no claim to fame, but there are 3 different responses based on our infamy. The first, if we do have infamy, he will say,
let the gods be the judge of that. I cannot see into men's heart. I see only their words and deeds.
If we have no infamy but do have fame,
a humble heart is a good starting point. The gods will decide if you are worthy to seek the relics.
And finally, if we're fresh out of the sewers with neither infamy nor fame, he will say,
perhaps, perhaps not. What men value is not always what the gods look for in a champion.
There is one dialogue option that never appears as the faction rank check, so there is a bug. But if we state, yes, I am the grand champion of the arena.
Oh my! The grand champion of all Cyrodiil? By Azura, indeed. Surely there can be no better preparation for becoming a holy knight than a career spent slaughtering for the public's entertainment.
Even though the subtitles say, by Azura indeed, the actual line of dialogue is, by Azura, by Azura, by Azura indeed, a tongue-in-cheek reference to the adoring fan. The line is even spoken with the same intonation as the fan, and really it's a shame that it never made it into the final version of the game.
By Azura, by Azura, by Azura! It's the Grand Champion! I can't believe it's you standing here next to me.
Finally, responding humbly, we can ask the prophet about the Crusader's relics, in which he responds,
the weapons and armor of Pelinal Whitestrake, Alicia's comrade, granted to him by the 8 divines. He went alone into the white gold tower, challenged the alien sorcerer King Umaril to single combat, and slew him. Alas, Umaril was not truly slain, but only cast beyond the bounds of Nirn. And now he has returned to wreak his vengeance upon the gods, as was prophesied by Pelinal himself with his dying breath. Only a true knight, wielding the holy relics of the Divine Crusader, has a chance to defeat Umaril. But alas for Tamriel, the Crusader's relics have been lost for many an age. Who now can succeed in the quest for the relics, where the greatest knights of legend all failed?
Wait, everybody before us failed? That's not a strong endorsement. We then ask, how can we find the relics?
The gods grant insight to those they deem worthy. Why and how they act is not predictable. What I can tell you is that, traditionally, knights who wished to quest for the relics would walk the pilgrim's way. Travel to the way shrines of the 9 divines. Pray to each of the gods in turn, and ask their favor upon your quest. If the gods deem you worthy, you will be granted a sign. Go forth with the 9's blessings.
And so the prophet has now given us all the tools we need to head off on this holy pilgrimage.
Walking the pilgrim's way is the traditional start of a holy quest. Follow the map I gave you, visit the way shrines of the 9, pray, and wait for a sign. May the 8 and 1 guide your steps.
Checking inside our inventory, we see that the prophet has indeed gifted us with a map of the 9 divines' way shrines, scattered about Cyrodiil. Our journal also updates saying, I've spoken to a mysterious prophet who told me that in order to seek the relics of the Crusader, I must first do a pilgrimage to the way shrines of the divines. He gave me a map of the pilgrim's way to help me locate the shrines. Once I've visited a way shrine for each of the 9 divines, I may receive a vision if I am judged a worthy knight. Heading up the Gold Road to the nearby way shrine of Arkay, just west of Kavach, we can pray at the way shrine, which says, Honor your body and spirit. Pray at my chapel altars to receive my blessing. Another interesting tidbit about the way shrines is you cannot complete the pilgrimage whilst wearing the grey cowl. Any attempt to activate a way shrine will result in the prompt, the gods are not mocked. They require an honest heart, not one hidden behind a false face. When your infamy is above 0, every shrine will still give the same message, continue your penance to earn the gods' forgiveness. However, unique to the DLC, your infamy will be reset to 0 once all 9 shrines have been visited, although, unfortunately, if at any point during this questline you receive more than 1 infamy point, you will have to complete the entire pilgrimage again. During our journey, usually on the Green Road north of Breville, Sir Roderick of Wayrest, an Imperial warrior, is added by the Knights of the 9 official plugin. His squire, Lathon, will regale us of Sir Roderick's conquests, saying,
I am Lathan, squire to Sir Roderick of Wayrest. We are on a holy quest for the Crusader's relics. Sir Roderick is a famous knight of Wayrest in High Rock. He is too modest to tell you himself, but he was a hero of the War of the Bendramach.
To which we can respond, wait, didn't Wayrest lose that war?
Well, yes, but Sir Roderick won many battles all the same. I'm sure if we had had more knights like him, we would have beaten the Nords.
Or being far more cordial, we can say, I am sure he's a mighty warrior.
He is. I've been his squire for almost 2 years now. Soon I'll be ready to return to Totambu and become a Knight of the Scarab.
If we ask the squire about the Crusader's relics, he will further reveal.
Surely you've heard the stories of the quest for the Crusader's relics. Only a true knight can find them, or even wield them. Sir Roderick will surely succeed if anyone can.
Moving on to Sir Roderick himself, asking him about the pilgrimage before you speak to the prophet in Anvil will have him tell you about his quest.
I have taken up the call of the prophet to quest for the Crusader's relics, and so I walk the pilgrim's way. Have you not heard what happened to the chapel in Anvil?
Asking him about the Anvil Chapel will have him tell you what he knows about the recent grisly events at the Chapel of Dibella.
It was terrible. I fought in many battles, but this... The priests and priestesses of Dibella, slaughtered within the very walls of her chapel. The altar itself, desecrated. No one saw who did it. No one yet living, that is, although many heard the screams. Speak to the prophet in Anvil. He knows what this portends. He says it is only the beginning.
He will also share how the prophet's preaching has affected him.
He preaches outside the Chapel of Dibella in Anvil. No one knows where he comes from, but he speaks the holy word like I've never heard before. You see me now a changed man. Lathon can testify to that. Before I met the prophet, I was nothing more than a hired sword. Go to Anvil. Speak to the prophet. You too may find yourself taking up his holy quest, despite yourself.
When you first encounter Sir Roderick, he will greet you by asking if you walk the pilgrim's path as he does.
Well met, traveler. Have you heard the call of the prophet? Do you walk the pilgrim's way?
Claiming that you are on the pilgrim's way will have him claim that he is as well, and will say that you are welcome to travel with him.
As do I. Perhaps we can share the road, as long as our paths lie together.
Claiming that you are not on the pilgrim's way will have him reply,
No matter. I thought I detected the light of a divine purpose in your eye. Now I must be on my way. The pilgrimage of the way shrines is my only purpose now.
If you claim that is not his concern at what you are doing, it will have him accept your right to privacy.
As you wish. I had no intention to impose myself on your affairs. Now I must be on my way. The pilgrimage of the way shrines is my only purpose now.
If you yourself are on the pilgrim's way, he will instead reply by saying,
I have taken up the prophet's call to defend the faith. Only a true knight, wielding the Crusader's relics, can stop the evil that now threatens us. I walk the pilgrim's way, as did the questing knights of old. I would be glad of your company on the road, if your way lies with mine.
As you end a conversation with Sir Roderick, he will call for the blessing of the Nine.
The blessings of the Nine upon your quest. Perhaps our paths will cross again.
Speaking to Sir Roderick after you initially spoke to him will have him inform you on which one of the way shrines he is currently traveling to. Instead of painstakingly visiting each shrine individually in this video, what better way to discover each shrine and their individual deity than have Sir Roderick announce them for us.
Hail. Come with me, if you will, to the way shrine of Arche. I will offer a prayer for the souls of those who died in the Nine's service. Mother Mara will bless my quest, I'm sure. I go to offer prayers to blessed Dibella, and to swear vengeance on those who profane her chapel and cruelly slew her acolytes. Follow me, if you also seek the divine wisdom of Julianos. His way shrine is this way. I seek the blessing of Kinnereth. Come, pray with me to the goddess of the air. Her way shrine is up ahead. I am on my way to the way shrine of Zenithar. Come with me, and we shall seek Zenithar's blessing together, if you will. Will you come with me to seek the blessing of Stendarr the Steadfast? The land is sore in need of righteous governance. I seek the blessings of Father Akatosh, who knows all things and protects us from the unseen threat. Who better to guide us in these dark days? Talos, the Dragonborn, patron of questing knights, will surely look with favor upon us. Walk with me to his shrine, if you will. The blessings of the Nine upon your quest. Perhaps our paths will cross again.
And finally, we pray to the shrine of Talos. A pop-up says, Rejoice, you've completed the pilgrimage of the 9 way shrines and gained the new power of Pilgrim's Grace. And it's then we've completed our pilgrimage to the way shrines of the Divines, and we're told we should pray and wait for a vision to guide us on our quest for the Crusader's relics. Chapter 2, Shrine of the Crusader. After completing the Divine's pilgrimage at the behest of the prophet in Anvil, we receive a vision. Upon praying at the final way shrine, we find ourselves transported to the skies above the Imperial City, appearing before the Divine Crusader, Pelinal Whitestrake, who reveals more details about himself and how Umaril, the Sorcerer King, has returned.
Your prayers have woken me from my endless dream. Or perhaps you have entered my dream, and I still sleep. I think others have sometimes spoken to me. Others like you, but my memory is doubtful. Perhaps the others came after you. Your need must be great for the gods to allow us to speak. Has Umaril the Accursed found a way back? The foulest of a foul race, 1,000 curses upon his unholy name. I thought I'd won, but I should have known. The slave masters are a cunning breed. Umaril found a way to cheat death as I could not. If you would seek for my relics, I know little that can help you. All that has passed since my death is like mists that my mind cannot take hold of. My friends built a shrine upon the site of my death, where the elves tormented me in a final act of revenge. I can show you where it once stood. Perhaps it is there still. Fare thee well, Sir Knight. May the gods grant you to destroy Umaril utterly, as I failed.
Hearing Pelinal's story and given the task of retrieving the Crusader's relics, we're then transported back to the Shrine of Talos in Cyrodiil. Before embarking on our quest to the shrine, we speak to Sir Roderick once again, and if we claim that we've already finished our pilgrimage, receiving a vision of Saint Pelinal for completing this task, it will have him congratulate us on this feat, saying,
Indeed. You are most fortunate. I pray that I too may be worthy to receive such a divine command. Meanwhile, I will continue on my own pilgrimage. Fare thee well, my
Indeed, there is none more worthy than Sir Roderick himself, and so we bid the noble knight farewell. And no sooner than we are released from the vision, our journal also updates saying, upon completing my pilgrimage to the way shrines, I received a vision from the Divine Crusader Pelinal Whitestrake. He revealed the location of a lost shrine, which is where I should begin my quest for the relics of the Crusader, and map marker points to Venua's location. We are also made a member of the Knights of the Nine faction with the rank of Knight Errant. Heading northwest towards Venua's location, ironically, or perhaps by divine design, we passed Fort Alesia, named after the very queen who liberated the men of Cyrodiil from slavery from the Aelids with the aid of Pelinal Whitestrake himself. The location, also known as Castle Alesia, is a ruined military fort located on the Red Ring Road southeast of the Imperial City in the Great Forest of Cyrodiil, and it can be assumed that the fort was named in honor of Alesia, as the fort is located just east of the Aelid ruins of Sardavar Lead, where Saint Alesia was raised herself as a slave. Now the fort is occupied by local marauders, and we take it upon ourselves as a knight errant to liberate the stronghold once more in Saint Alesia's name. We then head east, crossing the large Red Ring Road bridge, looking to see any signs of the Aelid fort Venua from our vantage point that Pelinal spoke of, to no avail. Momentarily caught off guard, drinking in the majesty of the Imperial City as we cross the bridge, we're met by an ill-tempered Khajiit bandit who threatens.
Pay up, or else.
Although we can refuse to pay the Khajiit, opting to slay the cowardly cat where he stands.
Easily done. I'll hack you to pieces. Ha!
Interestingly, if we instead pay the 100 gold, he responds,
Thanks. Until next time.
Usually, if not on this sacred quest, after paying him, when asking about rumors, he would simply reply,
You're talking to me, and I don't like you. Goodbye.
But due to the rumors swirling around Cyrodiil, we can actually learn more about the Prophet, and the Khajiit bandit will say,
An intriguing fellow from what I've heard. A cut above the usual street corner rabble-rouser. He's the talk of Anvil, apparently.
Let's call the 100 gold reparations for Pelinal mistaking the Khajiit for elves in his own bloody crusade.
I'm through talking to you.
Peering over the side of the bridge, we're confused as the ruined Vanua still remains out of sight. Yet on our map, it should be there. Was Pelinal indeed incorrect, as he was slain ages ago, having his body torn asunder? Did it make his memory fuzzy? It's then we head down to the shoreline, and as we step into the water, see the remains of a ruin poking out. Perhaps the river was much lower in days of old. We dive down to the depths of the river, near its bed, and find a door that leads into Vanua. Inside, we are still underwater, yet emerge safely by some stairs. Or so we thought, as we're met by an errant skeleton, seemingly awaiting our arrival. And so we rush to meet each other in combat. Felling the foul foe, we then loot the remains of his bones, or bone meal that is left behind crushed in his wake. To the east, we see an Ayleid casket that holds an iron warhammer, weak potion of light, and 9 gold. Tentatively exploring the tomb, we see that there are precious stones lighting the burial chambers, and as we look at the skeletons and take the well-kind stones, which are precious for magic users, we are again assaulted by more errant skeletons and wonder to ourselves, are these some of the crusaders of old that have returned to life to protect their tomb, or something more sinister? Plundering the rest of the tombs for the well-kind stones, we see in a large open chamber 4 pillars with well-kind stones atop each. We then attack the skeleton which has been milling about, defending its precious stones. Carefully plucking each stone from the pillars in which they hold them, we look above to try and spy a trap, but our misgivings seem for naught as nothing comes crashing down. Searching the rest of the chamber, we see what appears to be a well-kind stone embedded in the wall, but instead is a press block, known to be throughout the Ayleid ruins and activates a hidden door, where a skeleton is unawares of our presence, until we start to fire upon him. We then head north, plucking the arrows from the ground as we trudge through the half-flooded tomb, looting precious arrows from the corpse of the skeleton that had just fired upon us. Delving deeper into the submerged tomb, we see to the northeast that our path is blocked by some knotty bramble. It seems that the tree's roots themselves have blocked our path, entangled into the very tomb itself. We then head west and north up some stairs, back into the ruin where a skeleton patrols. Collecting its precious bone meal for alchemy, we then see to the south wall an Ayleid cask with 9 arrows and 7 gold, still sitting from all the centuries undisturbed. So then we head north through a gate into a large hall that also seems to be a form of burial chamber, guarded by one of the skeleton warriors. Casually plucking the well-kind stone from where it sits, we then examine the burial slab in the center of the room. No closer to the Crusader's relics than before, we're then ambushed from behind. With our stealth assaulter taken care of, we curiously see the path leads ever deeper, presumably outside of the tomb, and find a wood door to the shrine of the Crusader. Ascending, we find we are, in fact, back inside a ruin, and the skeleton assaults us with the newfound fervor. With a wave of our claymore, we bat him away, and looking at each side and which to explore, we then head west to a dead end, and south as well seems to be caved in. Following the light of the tunnel, we see more brambles sticking out, and a curious hole in the wall that appears to be our only way forward. Heading northwest through the cavernous area, we're ambushed once more by a sleuthing skeletal archer that waited for our arrival behind the pillar. It's then we about face and peer through the hole in the wall, seeing a skeleton shambling about and what looks to be a kite shield laying on the ground to the west. But to the northwest, in front of a fire, we see what appears to be the knight's helm itself. It's then we're pelted by arrows and are forced to defend ourselves against this ranged nuisance. As luck would have it, before we can even get close to the helm, we spy another skeletal archer that is defending its prize. Although, as luck would have it, we cannot get a clear shot on the skeleton, and this is something that can be exploited, as in the game you can actually use the pillars to the eastern wall to actually get over the grating and head towards the Helm of the Crusader without wading through a few more dead ends and skeletons that are lying in wait. Successfully navigating our way over the grating, even in heavy armor, we then see our prize is just in reach. However, a final showdown lies between us and the Helm of the Crusader. Weaving through the pillars and firing off projectiles, it is us who comes out the victor. We then turn and cautiously approach our prize, not knowing what to expect. In a jewelry box beside it, we find a paltry 2 gold, and there, sitting between unlit candles, is the winged helm of the Crusader. Picking it up, a quest log reads, "I've recovered the Helm of the Crusader, the first piece of the Crusader's relics, and thus we've obtained the first piece of many relics. The helm itself, when worn, fortifies restoration and personality, but also grants the power Serene Beauty, which allows the wearer to calm a target up to level 25 for 10 seconds. It should be noted that when questing for the Crusader's relics, the game will choose heavy armor or light armor for you, depending on which skill level you have higher. And with that, our quest, the Shrine of the Crusader, is now complete." Chapter 3. Priory of the Nine. Upon retrieving the Helm of the Crusader in the alien ruin of Vanua, we about face, leaping over the fence to the floor below, and find the corpse of a fallen Crusader. Hastily, we retrieve Emil's steel sword and kite shield to ward off the ghost awaiting us, and upon searching him, a new quest titled Priory of the Nine is added, updating. I found the body of Sir Emil, who appears to have perished centuries ago, while questing for the Shrine of the Crusader. Perhaps I can find some clues on his body that will help my own quest for the Crusader's relics turn out better than his. Indeed, we find on Sir Emil's remains a personal ring, familiar bone meal of a skeleton, and a key to exit the door ahead, but not before flipping through his journal, which tells us not only of his quest to obtain the Helm of the Crusader, but also a bitter rivalry between himself and an ex-member of their order, Sir Beric, who took the Crusader's greaves and sword as his own upon abandoning the crusade. After flipping through the journal, our quest updates saying, Sir Emil was a member of the Knights of the Nine, a holy order devoted to recovering the relics of the Crusader. Through reading his journal, I've learned the location of their former headquarters, the Priory of the Nine in the West Weald. I should proceed to the old Priory and see if it still holds the cuirass of the Crusader, as Sir Emil's journal suggests. But first, I should make sure I have his ring, which I may need to access the Priory vaults. As we pocket it, we head out the gate ahead, using Sir Emil's steel sword against the undead foe in wait. To no effect. We're then forced to use the spell Turn Undead to redirect the Wraith's wrath. lest we too are felled in this forsaken fortress, and like Emil, all but forgotten. Exiting the sunken ruin, we claw our way to shore in our heavy armor, now with the Helm of the Crusader in our possession. Once ashore, we check our map and see the Priory of the Nine is just east of Skingrad and begin our long journey. And as we cross the bridge that takes us to the Green Road, we're stopped once again by the same Khajiit bandit that had demanded 100 gold for our previous permission to pass.
Pay up, or else.
Although we previously paid him, we realize he doesn't recognize us wearing the Helm of the Crusader, but this time we say, no, take it from me if you can.
Actually, that's the way this one prefers it.
However, this time we have a trick up our sleeve. As we use the spell gifted to us from the Helm of the Crusader, Serene Beauty, which gives us calm up to 10 seconds.
Die, Imperial, die!
Unfortunately, an Imperial guard hears his taunts and slays the surly Khajiit where he stands. Ironic that an Imperial would slay Khajiit indiscriminately. Pelinal Whitestrake himself would approve of this action. If we then speak to the guard, we get a wry nod of divine intervention.
Trouble? Have you heard about that knight that's questing for the Crusader's relics? What's his name? Sir Roderick, right? Long live the Empire!
We do indeed hope that Sir Roderick is faring well with his quest for the Crusader's relics, as we are, and hope to meet him again soon. And so we travel to the west towards Skingrad. After several hours' ride, we find by the south of the Westweald the Priory of the Nine poking out at the bottom of a valley. Entering it, we see that it has a disheveled garden with no flowers growing bar one, and to the east we see a priory chapel. Upon entering, the chapel appears to be deserted for some time, however the altar grants us its blessing. We then about face heading outside of the chapel. The stable itself seems in pretty reasonable condition, yet still houses no horses. To the southwest, directly behind the priory, we see a lot of overgrown vegetation of the native plants, and although pretty, they surround at the far wall what looks to be a mural of a knight fighting an unknown alien. No doubt a spectacular mural if seen from below with the light shining through. Casually collecting some of the local flora, we then head around to the front of the priory and enter its main doors. Inside the priory is a sad, disheveled state. As we enter the foyer, we see that most of the furniture is sparse or has been removed, as well as a curious 9-pointed symbol etched into the southwestern portion of the floor. But as it leads to the basement, first we investigate the rest of the priory. Starting with the second floor, we look around in what appears to be a study with a secondary bedroom. Inside the smaller room, atop a chest, is a book labeled The Song of Pelinal, version 7, and we see the same mural we saw in the garden below of Pelinal Whitestrake battling Umaril, the alien sorcerer king. Heading back around to the other side of the second floor, the western wing holds not much. It's not as disheveled, but has no furniture whatsoever. So instead, we head back down to the 9-pointed symbol on the ground floor. Remembering in Sir Emil's journal, he wrote that you must use his ring to enter the vaults beneath the Priory house. There, supposedly, will lie the cuirass of the Crusader. And so, with ring in hand, we search for a place to put it. Finding a small insertion point, a pop-up says, Sir Emil's ring fits perfectly into the diamond-shaped opening in the floor. A staircase then mechanically descends and opens a pathway to the Priory basement. Once entering the basement, we see to the western wall a blacksmith's forge, which is in disuse, however, still looks totally functional for a blacksmith with the know-how into getting it working. The rest of the large room is dedicated to martial training, though over the years of disuse, it looks like the spiders have been training to cover it in web. Giving the training dummy a slap with our claymore for good measure, we head to the northeastern wall and find 2 chests, the second of which contains Knights of the Nine cuirasses and shields, but seeing as the cuirass is not imbued with any significant magical properties, we know this is not the cuirass we have been searching for, but instead a part of a larger armory that some of the Knights' members would wear. It's then heading to the western wall we spy a special door to the Priory undercroft that is marked by 9 diamond symbols once more. And so, we step inside. Miraculously, the torches in the undercroft are still aglow, and it's there we look up to see the brilliant mural of Pelinal versus Umaril, and to the western wall, the cuirass. However, a ghost manifests in our path. The spectre of Sir Amiel then says,
"By the strength and guidance of the Nine, who comes before us upon this sacred ground, seeking the cuirass of the Divine Crusader? Step forward, adventurer, and face us each in honorable combat. For the vows we fail to revere in life, we shall uphold in death. No unworthy soul shall lay hands upon this sacred artifact without the leave of the Knights of the Nine."
Before we have time to react, as we turn, we see the phantom of Sir Gregory upon us. Momentarily taken off guard, his spectral blade licks at us and is slaked in our blood. With Sir Gregory fallen, he then gets up and resumes his position in the circle. It's then Sir Amiel announces our next opponent.
"Sir Gregory, you are defeated. Sir Casimir, step forward."
Then one by one we defeat the fallen knights.
Impressive. You have bested Sir Casimir. Now face Sir Ralphus. Sir Ralphus, you have fallen. Step back and let the challenge continue. Sir Henrik, come forward and prove yourself. You have overcome half of us, and yet you remain standing. Perhaps Sir Caius shall test your true mettle. You show a fury of faith that I have not seen in centuries, but now you face Sir Junkin. You have lost, Sir Junkin. Sir Torolf, show the challenger the ferocity of the North. You have stood against the Knights of the Nine and lived. However, the final test is upon you. Ready yourself, Sir Knight, and face me!
Post defeating the head of the Crusaders, Sir Amiel, he then resumes his position in front of the cuirass and congratulates.
Sir Knight, in 300 years, none have stood against us and lived. Step forward and claim what is yours by right. May your faith be true.
The energies that once barred the armor now dissipate, and our quest updates saying, "I've defeated the ghostly guardians of the cuirass of the Crusader. I can now claim it for my own." Sidestepping Sir Amiel, we then head towards the stand. Mystical energies hang in the air, and as we pick up the armor, our quest update saying, "I've recovered the cuirass of the Crusader. I should talk to the ghosts of the former Knights of the Nine to see if they can aid me in my quest for the remaining Crusaders' relics." We then speak to Sir Amiel once more and he says,
By the Nine, I've not seen such strength. Could you be No, you cannot. You are simply a noble knight.
Learning more of the knights, we then ask Sir Amiel what happened during his quest for the Helm of the Crusader.
You completed the quest that I could not. I am glad that my death at least served to lead you here, as I had hoped.
Tell us more of these Knights of the Nine and how you all perished.
The original Order of the Nine was founded with the intention of safekeeping the Crusader's relics. In life, we failed at this task. In death, we seek to preserve what little we accomplished while we wait for one to come and finish what we began.
Your journal spoke of internal strife in the Order, specifically Sir Beric, who took the sword and greaves with him.
One of the mightiest knights of my day. It was a great boost to the Order's prestige when he joined. Unfortunately, he and I did not see eye to eye on certain matters. He left the Order during the War of the Red Diamond and never returned. Go, with virtue.
It's then we can speak to several of the knights about the Cura specifically, such as Sir Caius, who says,
"The cuirass of the Crusader represents our greatest achievements as servants of the Nine. We protect it, even in death."
Sir Juncan then says,
"We took an oath to protect the cuirass in death. The one who could defeat us is the one who is meant to have it."
The elf Sir Relvus then says,
Your sword and your faith are true. You may claim the cuirass with my leave.
We then equip the cuirass, which grants us Fortify Restoration 2 points on self, Resist normal weapons 15% on self, and Fortify Health 15 points on self. Now equipped with 2 pieces of the Crusader's relics, we then speak to the rest of the Knights of the Nine and hear their stories on how they lost their relics in life. But that is a story for another time. Chapter 4, Nature's Fury. This is the story of Nature's Fury and the quest for the boots of the Crusader and Knights of the Nine. After finding the hidden basement in the Priory of the Nine and the cuirass within, we're tasked by Sir Amiel to retrieve the rest of the Crusader's relics, and so we speak to the spectres encircled inside the Undercroft, starting with Sir Juncan, who regales us of the story of the boots.
"I wish to see you succeed where I failed. I was on the path to the boots of the Crusader, but died before I reached them. Do you wish to learn what little I know?
We can, of course, dismiss him, and he would say,
Then I shall await your return.
If instead we respond, no, please tell me more, he says.
I cannot tell you exactly how to find the boots, for that will be up to Kinnereth. I can tell you to seek out her priests, though. West of the Imperial City, on the edge of the Great Forest, is a shrine. You will find them there, and they will tell you what you need to know."
So there's a shrine to Kinnereth in the Great Forest we'd never happened upon before. So then we ask, what more can you tell us about the boots of the Crusader?
The boots are safeguarded by Kinnereth herself. You must be tested and prove yourself worthy to acquire them.
But how are we deemed worthy by Kinnereth, we wonder? We ask him further of the knights, and he replies,
The wars of men undermine the service of the Nine. Do not follow in our mistakes. May your sword strike true.
A cryptic response indeed. Do not follow in the steps of men and put our faith in the Nine, it seems. We then look around the circle and search for more clues about the boots, starting with Sir Gregory, who greets.
I am at your service, Commander.
What can you tell us about the boots of the Crusader?
The boots have been guarded by Kinnereth herself for the longest time. Sir Juncan went after them and never returned. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
Ominous words indeed. It should be noted that only a sparse few of the knights will tell you about each quest, so you have to go around the circle. For expediency's sake, I've cut through that, and will only speak to knights who give us more information about this specific quest. One of which is Sir Casimir, who wonders aloud.
When Sir Juncan died while questing after the boots, I mourned his loss. Now I wonder if perhaps it was a mercy that he left us when he did. Go with virtue.
And so we speak to the final Crusader, their leader, Sir Amiel, once more.
I am at your service, Commander.
Like the others, Sir Amiel further laments the Great War, saying,
Sir Junkin was lost attempting to find the gauntlets. At least he was spared from the tragedy of the Order's last days. May the Nine guide your way.
Learning all we can from the knights about the boots, our quest update saying, I've been instructed to find the shrine to Kinnereth in the Cyrodiil's Great Forest and speak with the priest there about the boots of the Crusader. After many hours riding in the forest, night falls upon us, and searching for a temple, we instead find Kinnereth's shrine out in the open, tended to by a handful of priests. We then approach the imperial priestess Avita Vesnia, who questions,
What brings you to the altar of Kinnereth, my child?
We then admit we have come questing for the boots of the Crusader.
You would seek the holy relic Kinnereth has bestowed upon the world. Then you must prove yourself worthy. Kinnereth's creations guard her relic, and you must pass the test before you may be granted the boots.
We can then dismiss the statement saying, I'm not taking any test.
No? You would think yourself above Kinnereth's design? Then perhaps you should not have come here at all.
Rethinking our strategy, we return and she says,
You return to Kinnereth's altar. Have you changed your mind? Do you still seek the boots of the Crusader?
I've reconsidered. Tell me about this test.
I cannot say what it will be, for I do not know. Kinnereth herself will decide in what manner you shall be tested. All I can do is direct you to the Grove of Trials and remind you to heed Kinnereth's teachings. Fear and respect nature and all her creations.
Wait, what does fear and respect nature mean?
Indeed. Nature itself is Kinnereth's domain. All its creatures are her wards. You would do well to remember this when it comes time for your test.
As cryptic as the Crusaders, we can then ask, well, at least point us in the direction of this grove.
Not far from here, to the west, nestled within the great forest, it is a place many would overlook. I warn you that it is unwise to take anyone with you. You should go there alone.
Okay, so I can't take a companion? Very well, I shall take this test.
Then proceed directly to the grove, as your test has begun. Kinnereth may choose to guard you along the way. That is up to her. Good luck.
With that, our quest updates, but we pause to ask about the altar at Kinnereth.
You have been in the Chapel of Kinnereth from the moment you stepped outdoors. Have you not felt her presence? We gather here to pay tribute to all of the blessings she bestows upon us.
Now, this shrine only appears in the DLC, and it's a nice touch having Kinnereth's shrine in the outdoors. We can then ask a further question about the boots, and she says,
You must be tested by Kinnereth before you are worthy of the boots.
Finally, we can ask Avita about rumours, and she will remark,
Imps. I hate 'em. Little buggers flitting around, tossing fireballs at you.
This is a somewhat humorous observation, as just to the south is Haynote Cave, where the player will find themselves when travelling here most of the time, and we were met by multiple imps who tried to have their way with us. I guess not all of Kind's creatures are divine, hey?
Be seeing you.
Back to the task at hand, we cannot help but admire the beauty of Kinnereth's shrine out in the open like some type of Daedric shrine with its worshippers. And so we next speak to the Redguard priest Stendarr, who greets.
Well met.
What can you tell us of this shrine?
Where better to meet and pray to Kinnereth than in the midst of her beautiful creations.
Agreed, though, like his counterpart, he doesn't seem to be fond of imps.
Imps? I hate 'em, little buggers flitting around, tossing fireballs at you. Farewell.
And last we speak to the Nord priest Jesper, who says,
Well met.
This shrine of Kinnereth sure is pretty outside, hey?
It simply wouldn't be right to build over Kinnereth's works, simply so we could worship her. So our altar is here, in the chapel she has created. Goodbye.
If there is one thing that we have learnt as we head to the grove, is to pay deference to nature. Checking our map, we see Avito's marked its location just to the west, and our quest update saying, in order to be granted the boots of the Crusader, I must travel to a sacred grove in the Great Forest and be tested by Kynareth herself. We just hope there are no imps involved. It's not long before riding through the thick brush do we find a small cave in our quest update saying, I've reached the Grove of Trials. I shall have to wait and see what Kynareth has in store for me. Harvesting some of the nearby flora, we see a great boulder barring our entrance to the cave and wonder if we have to hack our way in as a part of the trial. Unfortunately, we made a fair bit of commotion, and the biggest bear we've ever seen rears up, letting out an enraged bellow at our trespassing, squaring up on us, and seemingly enraged by the sight of our Crusader's shield. As we slash the bear's exposed torso between its swipes, our quest updates with grim news and says, I have failed Kynareth's test, and shall have to continue to try again. Worse yet, a war of attrition truly begins. It's only after dozens of slashes with Sir Amiel's sword does the bear succumb to its wounds. Finally felling the divine creature, it seems our crime versus the divine has not gone unnoticed. With little recourse and hat in hand, we head back to Astiva at Kynareth's shrine, and she says upon our return,
Welcome again to the altar of Kynareth.
Look, it seems we failed the test.
You return unsuccessful, but have involved yourself in other matters. Settle your combat and return to me then.
Unfortunately, killing the Great Bear can add to your infamy, and if your infamy is too high, you will not be able to complete the Crusader's quest. In fact, you will have to complete the pilgrimage to the 9 way shrines again. Perhaps taking pity on us, as she was about to be consumed by Kynareth's own beasts, we speak to Avito once more.
I see it on your face. You have failed the test. In her infinite grace and wisdom, Kynareth will have mercy on you and allow you to resubmit to her test. Return to the grove and try once more.
And so our journal updates informing us we are allowed to attempt Kynareth's trial once more. However, we sense this will be the extent of Kynareth's mercy. And so we ride due west and make our way to the cave with the boulder out front, and the quest updates as we wait Kynareth's trial for a second time. Unsure what to expect, we see a familiar great bear ambling towards us slowly. Thinking upon Avita's words, this time we make no attempt to attack as it rears up. However, the bear presses forward. Seeing an unwanted interloper at the sacred grove, we hold our shield steadfast as it begins to attack. And remember, the Helm of the Crusader spells serene beauty, calming the wild beasts. It's then our quest update saying, a bear attacked me in the sacred grove, but I made no attempt to fight back. A cave has been revealed, and it would seem the boots of the Crusader are waiting inside. It's then the Forest Guardian lets out a docile growl of acknowledgement and turns to leave. Unburdened by the boulder, we see an intricate door that leads to Kynareth's grotto. Entering, we see we're inside a small cave lined with various fungi. And as we make our way into the small opening, we see a Spriggan, miraculously, that does not attack us on sight. In fact, it stands as a pair guarding the boots of the Crusader by Kynareth's divine will. Suspect there is a further trial, we tepidly approach the boots and hesitantly pick them up, and a quest update saying that we've acquired the boots of the Crusader. Equipping them, we see we've been endowed with +2 to restoration, as well as a spell called Woodland's Grace, though we are unsure at what this blessing would impart. Leaving the grotto and the trials once more, we have one last look at Kynareth's door before heading back to let Sir Juncan know of our success. Dismounting our trusty white steed after our long journey, we head inside the Priory to be shocked, seeing a familiar face. Ativa? But what is one of Kynareth's priests doing here, we question. Approaching her, she explains.
Well met, Sir Knight. We meet again. I am here to join your order, having received a divine vision from Kynareth herself. I have been shown that to protect all Kinnereth's creations, I must take up your cause and be willing to lay down my life for you. So here I am. I have no doubt that our good works will be talked of in the eras to come.
From here, we have two distinct options and say, I'm sorry, you're not worthy.
I see. I will not be deterred, so I shall remain here in the hopes that you change your mind.
As we contemplate our decision, we begin to pace around the Priory and realize that it's been cleaned up. Ativa has been quite busy. There are now beds in the West Wing. For someone who lived outside, she sure is adamant about making this work.
I await your permission to join the Order.
Reconsidering, we welcome her to the Order.
Thank you. I shall serve the Order to the best of my ability. I must change into something that suits a knight. Please excuse me.
Making herself quite comfortable and at home, Ativa then departs down into the armory in which we can follow her. Following close behind, Ativa is already dressed in battle armament and greets.
Greetings, Sir Knight.
It's then she explains the effects of the boots and Woodland's grace further.
I am pleased to see that you have them. It is said that the wearer has the blessing of Kinnereth upon him, and will not come to harm from creatures of the forest.
So animals in the forest ignore us? That is quite a boon. We then further press Evita about joining the knights, but she simply states,
It is an honour to serve under you, Crusader. Farewell.
Leaving the newly knighted Sir Evita to her duties, we then head to the Priory Undercroft and speak to Sir Junkin once more, and he exclaims,
You are an asset to your order. You have claimed the boots, and for this I am grateful. Walk with the nine, Sir Knight.
And with that, our quest for the Crusader's boots is finally finished. Chapter 5, Path of the Righteous. After retrieving the boots of Kinnereth, we return to the Crusaders in the Priory's Undercroft. It's there we're beckoned by the elven spirit of Sir Ralvus, who questions if we are prepared to seek out the Mace of Zenithar.
Are you ready to begin your quest for the Mace of Zenithar?
Replying, yes, we are prepared. It's then Sir Ralvus continues.
You have passed our test, and now I must ask you to press forward where I could not. I must ask you to face the challenge of Zenithar.
Although we're prepared, we are curious and ask, how did you fail?
I was arrogant and foolhardy. I sought personal glory. I placed my own will and my own lust for fame over the will of the Nine. In facing the challenge of Zenithar, I failed. I tried dozens, no, hundreds of times to reach the mace. I fell each time, and each time I awoke in the chapel, I leapt again. I tried to enlist the help of the other knights, but none would come to my aid. The inscription says to walk in the faith, but even now, I do not know what this means.
What a sad fate to be left by your brothers and faithless. We then ask, what must I do to succeed?
Below the Chapel of Zenithar in Leowyn, there is a shrine to the great craftsman, St. Calidus. Those seeking the mace must pray before the shrine. When you bow, you will receive a vision, or perhaps not. It is unclear. The priest saw that my body never moved, but it felt so real. You will see the mace separated from you by a great chasm. The chasm represents your doubt. Your faith must be your guide across it.
Wait, so you're telling me that purely by my own faith, that will guide me?
This is what I know. As I said, my faith was weak. I did not understand the test, and I fell from the platform each time I tried to cross. I have told you all that I know. All that is left is for you to prove yourself more worthy than I. If you seek the mace, travel to Leowyn's chapel, kneel at the shrine in the Undercroft, and let your faith in the Nine be the salvation of us all.
It's then our quest updates, and before we leave, we ask Sir Ralvus, what happened to the Knights of the Nine to make you betray each other?
Our greed for the relics overshadowed our faith in the Nine. I can only hope that you are stronger than we were.
For all our sake, so do I. We then ask, what is the history of this Mace of Zenithar?
Legends say that when Pelinal Whitestrake was slain by the Aelids, a messenger carried the mace to the human settlement of Leowin as a message. Centuries later, the master craftsman St. Calidus built the Chapel of Zenithar in Leowin as a tribute to the legend. When St. Calidus was laid to rest, those who prayed to Zenithar at his tomb began to receive visions of the mace of the Crusader.
St. Calidus was quite the craftsman. Tell me more about Zenithar and his aspect.
Of the original divines, Zenithar is thought to be the most in touch with the mortal realm. Some legends say that Zenithar has close ties to Kinnereth, an idea that is supported by the manner in which the two gods' realms interact. Craftsmen devoted to Zenithar are able to create and profit from the materials provided by Kinnereth's natural world. The two work in harmony, the natural world providing for the craftsman. One cannot revere Zenithar without acknowledging the power of Kinnereth. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
Learning all we can from Sir Ralvis, we then speak to his brothers that had abandoned him, starting with Sir Amiel, who says,
After Beric betrayed us, Sir Ralvis journeyed to the Chapel of Leowin to attempt Zenithar's test of faith. He tried to reach the mace again and again, failing each time. He became obsessed with it, refusing food or drink for days. When I finally received word of his quest, I went searching for him. But I was too late. Sir Juncan helped me carry his body back here. I failed my friend, and I failed Zenithar. Perhaps you can succeed where Sir Ralvis could not, and redeem us both. May the Nine guide your way.
What a tragic image to conjure that Sir Amiel had to collect poor Sir Ralvis's broken body as he quested for the mace. It's then our quest update saying, Sir Ralvis has told me where to find the mace of Zenithar. In order to recover the mace, I must travel to the Chapel of Zenithar in Leowin. In the undercroft of the chapel, I must kneel at the shrine there. According to Sir Ralvis, I will be tested and my faith will be my guide. An abstract piece of wisdom to be sure, but perhaps the priests of Leowin's chapel can aid us in our quest. Approaching the great chapel of Zenithar in the western quarter of Leowin, when we enter its great double doors, we're approached by an unfamiliar knight named Caridus, who exclaims,
It's you. I've heard of you. You're the one restoring the Knights of the Nine, aren't you?
It's then we have three distinct responses and can say, look, I have to go.
Very well. I wish you luck, Sir Knight.
If instead we take the man's giddy greeting in stride, we can say, yes, I am. And who are you?
My name is Caridus O'Holan. Like you, I am a servant of the Nine, specifically of Zenithar. I came here seeking his mace. However, I could not pass the test. I'm no crusader, but that doesn't mean that I cannot serve Zenithar. In light of recent attacks, I've signed on to protect the chapel. I'm fair with a blade, and by my honor, I'll serve the Nine in any way I can.
If instead we chose to say, I am merely a servant of the Nine.
Such humility. I admire you. I am Caridus O'Holan. I originally came to this chapel in search of the Mace of Zenithar. I tried, but I could not pass the test. My faith was weak, or perhaps Zenithar decided it was not I who should carry the mace. He has found a use for me, however. The priests have asked me to stay on to protect the chapel. After what happened in Anvil, they are afraid.
And understandably so, but Caridus too has failed the test. We then ask more about him and his story, and he says,
I grew up in Cheydinhall. My father was a cobbler. My mother was an acolyte of Zenithar. She was self-taught, not part of the chapel proper. They were both killed in an accident when I was young. I became a ward of the crown and was drafted into the Imperial Army. After serving 2 tours patrolling Stros Mackay, left the service for a life devoted to Zenithar, inspired by my parents.
A noble cause indeed, making us wonder, how is he not worthy? Tell me, what do you know of the mace?
Legends say that when Pelinal Whitestrike was slain by the Aelids, a messenger carried the mace to the human settlement of Leyawen as a message. Centuries later, the master craftsman St. Calidus built the Chapel of Zenithar in Leyawen as a tribute to the legend. When St. Calidus was laid to rest, those who prayed to Zenithar at his tomb began to receive visions of the mace of the Crusader. Be seeing you.
And so, with Calidus's tale in mind, we seek out more information on the mace, starting with the Imperial Priest, Cantav Chenaslin.
I must admit my curiosity at your endeavor. So many have tried and failed to retrieve the mace. What makes you think that you will succeed?
Honestly, we're unsure, but need to learn more of the mace if we stand a chance to succeed, where it seems better men have failed.
I believe in the transforming power of honest work. I honor your vocation as adventurer. By your labors and their fruits, you praise Zenithar.
High praise indeed, but we're no closer to finding the relics, so we speak to the Dark Elf priest, Avris Adders.
Yes, I heard of you. Found a few relics and you imagine yourself to be the next Whitestrake, do you?
I mean, not exactly. Why are you in Leyawen?
I used to be a priest of the Tribunal Temple in Craigenmore. After the collapse, I drifted for a while until I joined the chapel. The beggars and the wicked thieves guild still trouble me. I wish the 9 divines offered charity and comfort to the poor, like the temple did. Be seeing you.
Despite his gruff demeanor, he's right about the chapels. Finally, we speak to the priestess Solana Blandia, who scoffs.
So you're the one that's come for the mace, are you? Another adventurer looking for treasure? Get on with it if you must. The shrine is downstairs, but I wouldn't expect much if I were you. No one has ever succeeded. Be seeing you.
Although no closer to understanding our goal, a common theme that we have is that we must humble ourselves before the gods. Taking this advice literally, we then discard our Crusaders' relics so that we do not stand out any further with the priests and show that we are free of ego, which was arguably the downfall of the Crusaders before we pray to St. Calidus in the Undercroft below. Now garbed in the robes of a simple priest, we head inside the tomb, and it's there that we see the sanctified dead have risen. Our attack with Sir Amiel's steel sword has no effect, and so again we're forced to use Turn Undead on the spirits, lest we be felled, realizing we must make it to the western wall to St. Calidus' resting place, or suffer a similar fate to Sir Ralvis. With the ghost momentarily placated, we get on our knees and pray to St. Calidus, a vision awash with a white intense light, and our quest updates reading. I've knelt before the shrine of St. Calidus in Leyawen and found myself transported to some sort of dark void. I can see the mace of Zenithar off in the distance, but there seems to be no way to reach it. According to Sir Ralvis, I must allow my faith in the 9 to guide me to the mace. Indeed, we see we've been transported to some form of astral plane directly below the Undercroft, and over an abyss, there lies the mace, beckoning to us through a pillar of light. Though, how can we cross with faith alone? Stealing our resolve, we muster up as much faith in the 9 as humanly possible and step off the edge, into the abyss and fall into nothingness. We awaken, startled, back in the Undercroft, and it's then our quest update saying, I stepped into the void to try and reach the mace of Zenithar, but my feet met nothing but air, and I fell into darkness. There must be a way to walk between the platforms and reach the mace. Praying at the tomb, we're transported once again and this time decide to leap off the edge in an act of faith and fall once again into darkness, looking up at the mace as we succumb to the nothingness below. Upon multiple failed attempts, repeatedly falling into the infinite void, our quest finally updates and says, my attempts to reach the Mace of Zenithar have been unsuccessful. No matter what I try, I cannot reach the other platform. Perhaps the solution lies with the other relics. But what could that possibly mean? We then turn to leave, dodging the vengeful spirits to seek out the wisdom of the fallen Crusaders once more. As we ascend the chapel stairs to the main hall, we're met by Caridus Aholan, who asks,
"Have you had any luck retrieving the mace?"
We admit no, we've come up short in our quest, to which he then guides.
Of the original divines, Zenithar is thought to be the most in touch with the mortal realm. Some legends say that Zenithar has close ties to Kinnereth, an idea that is supported by the manner in which the two gods' realms interact. Craftsmen devoted to Zenithar are able to create and profit from the materials provided by Kinnereth's natural world. The two work in harmony, the natural world providing for the craftsman. One cannot revere Zenithar without acknowledging the power of Kinnereth.
Wait, this speech is familiar. It was given to us first by Sir Ralvis. If Zenithar's power is intertwined by Kinnereth's, then perhaps our supplicative approach was incorrect. Then, discarding our robes, we equip the Crusader's relics as well as the boots of Kinnereth, and race back to the Undercroft to pray to Calidus' shrine a final time. To our astonishment, a path of mist is laid out before us, divinely guiding our step above the chasm below. And so we safely traverse the mystical walkway and pluck the fabled mace of Zenithar that rests on an anvil in deference to Zenithar's forgery. Our quest then further updates, saying, "I've completed Sir Ralvis' quest by recovering the mace of the Crusader. I should continue to search for the relics the other ghost knights were questing for. As we're transported back to the Chapel Undercroft. We then see the attributes of the mace, boasting fire damage 2 points for 2 seconds on strike, and turn undead up to level 1 for 5 seconds on strike. Realizing that we're now protected against the undead which assailed us, we switch out Sir Amiel's sword, which passed through the ghosts harmlessly, and with our new weapon, successfully dispatch the roaming ghosts from the Undercroft. Emerging from the tomb victorious, we're shocked to see the chapel is under siege by Aurorans, great golden-armored Daedra from the realm of Meridia, dispatching the fiends as they attack the priests. Our quest updates once more, saying, "After recovering the mace of the Crusader, I found the minions of Umaril attacking the Chapel of Zenithar. They were all defeated, and Leowin's chapel escaped desecration that had defiled Anvils previously. With the immediate Daedric threat dispatched, we check on the residents of the chapel, starting with Caridus Aholan, who exclaims,
I can't believe it. We survived! By the grace of the Nine, we survived! In no small part to you, Sir Knight. By your will and the will of the Nine, the Chapel of Zenithar is held against this blasphemer. Sir, I pledge my sword. I wish to join you in your quest to restore the Knights of the Nine and defeat this Umaril."
Although we have the chance to deem him as unworthy, instead we say, "I accept. Welcome to the Order."
"I can only hope to match your bravery and valor. I am honored to serve by your side. Allow me to fetch more suitable equipment. I shall return shortly."
As with the other Crusaders, Sir Caridus heads to the Priory's armory to equip himself and meet us there. Looting the Aurorans, we find on their body a crude Ayleid battle axe, Daedric heart, and petty soul gem. With the Aurorans felled, we then have time to speak to the surviving priests, starting with the Imperial Cantav, who thanks.
"I see in you the makings of a grand hero. You've saved our lives. We owe you a debt of thanks." Bye.
Heading up the stairs, we then speak to the previously condescending Dark Elf, Avarice Artis.
"I thought for sure that we would meet the same end as our comrades in Anvil. Thank you, Sir Knight. We are in your debt. Bye."
And finally, the surly Selena Blandia. And her tune has also changed dramatically, and she says,
"I can't believe it. You have the mace, and you stopped those horrible Daedra. I was wrong to doubt you. I ask your forgiveness. Be seeing you."
All right in the Chapel of Zenithar, in no small part thanks to Kinnereth, we then exit the church and make our way back to the Priory. Once inside, we do not see Caritas, and so we descend the stairs to the armory and spy two unfamiliar faces. It seems twin Nords battling in the training room. Approaching them, they greet us, saying,
"Hail, Sir Knight! My brother and I have heard that you are founding a holy order of knights, and we would like to offer you our swords. We've come all the way from Skyrim to join up. We can't claim any experience as knights, but we learn soldiering from our years in the Legion. Will you have us?"
An interesting fact about the Nord brothers is if we tell one of the brothers, "You are not yet worthy," they will say,
"You're the commander. We know how to take orders, but I know that one day we'll earn your trust."
Speaking to Gukimir, he will then request,
"My brother and I still hope to serve the gods as Knights of the Nine. Have you changed your mind? Will you induct us into the order?"
And it only takes accepting one into the order for both to join.
"You won't regret it, sir. You'll find us true-hearted and brave. I'll be back as soon as I've outfitted myself."
Once the brothers have joined, surprisingly they just head to a small sack next to the training bench. Then they are equipped with the Crusader's armor and resume their training.
"I am at your service, Commander. Farewell."
Leaving the brothers to their martial practice, we then head into the Priory Undercroft and seek out the spirit of Sir Juncan to let him know of our success, and he laments.
So it was the boot that Sir Ralphus needed to complete his quest. What a fool I was to refuse to help him. I will carry this regret for all time. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
We then speak to Sir Emil, who informs,
"Greetings, Sir Knight. You've passed Zenithar's challenge and redeemed Sir Ralphus. Oh, congratulations. Sir Juncan will be pleased to hear this. May the Nine guide your way."
And finally, we seek out Sir Ralphus, who is ecstatic at the news and says,
Greetings, Sir Knight. You've retrieved the mace. I can't believe it. Sir Knight, I bend my knee in awe at your wisdom. You deserve to carry the mace. May the Nine guide your way.
And so, with the mace in hand and the blessing of Zenithar, we continue our quest for the other relics to defeat the evil Aliad Umaril, the Sorcerer King. Chapter 6, Wisdom of Ages. With the legendary Mace of Zenithar in hand, we now begin our quest for its counterpart, the Shield of the Crusader, said to be once in the possession of the Nord warrior Sir Henrik. When approaching him, he admits,
"I can tell you what I know. It is not everything, but it is perhaps enough."
Perhaps enough? What do you mean?
"When the order crumbled, I set out on my own. After years of searching, I found the shield and brought it to Fort Bulwark for safekeeping. With the help of a few trusted friends, I began work to keep the shield safe for all eternity. I never saw my work finished. I died defending the fort from those who would take and misuse the shield. I never saw our work finished. I trust that the others carried on without me."
So the shield is hidden to protect it. How dangerous is it if I attempt to acquire it?
"The shield is safeguarded within Fort Bulwark. It is protected, and care must be taken when attempting to find it."
Grim tidings. Where is this Fort Bulwark located?
"It lies in the southeast of Cyrodiil, near the Black Marsh border. If all went according to plan, it should be very well guarded now. Believe in yourself, and use your knowledge wisely. You will pass through unharmed, and the shield will be yours."
And with that, our quest updates, but we prod Sir Henrik for more clues as he's quite cryptic about how the shield is being guarded.
"Look to the southeast of Cyrodiil to find it. I cannot say for certain what is inside, but be prepared for anything."
To try and ascertain what type of danger may lie in wait, we then speak to Sir Henrik about the aspect of Julianos, whom he worships.
"History and knowledge are his domain. He is the god of wisdom and logic. He teaches us, know the truth, observe the law. When in doubt, seek wisdom from the wise."
The irony that we seek wisdom and Sir Henrik is so withholding is not lost on us. We then ask him of the fall of his brothers.
Though we went our separate ways when the order fell, we all served the Nine in our hearts. All but one. May the Nine guide your way.
He of course is alluding to Sir Beric, the rogue knight. So then we speak to Sir Juncan about the shield, and he regales us of Sir Henrik.
Sir Henrik spent his days looking for the shield. He was so determined. We all were in those days. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
As we move to exit, it's then fellow Nord Sir Gregory shares.
Sir Henrik wasn't drawn into the war as so many of us were. His mind never left the shield. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
As we move to leave, our quest and update saying, I need to find Fort Bulwark and locate the shield of the Crusader inside. Of course, the quest is called Wisdom of the Ages. Maddeningly, wisdom to obtain the shield that only Julianos and Sir Henrik seem to be aware of, for now. As promised, in the south of Cyrodiil near the Black Marsh border, we ride through a misty haze towards a foreboding structure that looms in the distance, and our quest update saying, I found Fort Bulwark and I need to get inside and find the shield. Making our way around the western front of the fort that edges upon a swamp, we dismount our steed and are then accosted by an unknown assailant who taunts.
Let's get this over with! Ha! You'll never take me down!
As the blue-robed conjurer sends his scamp towards us, we know better than to divert our attention, lest he summon more horrors to his side, and instead equip our bow for ranged attacks, and he utters,
The shield will be ours!
The shield will be ours. That means that Sir Henrik's defences laid are not the only thing to be wary of in Fort Bulwark. It should be noted that the developers had actually spotted around a lot of the flowers needed to get back into the Mages Guild if you were kicked out, so this is a perfect place to harvest them.
If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get.
Entering the fort, we hear threats from more enemies, but cannot see them initially, so we head above to the top tier of the dilapidated ruin. So then we hear the audible hissing of a scamp and find another conjurer female with her back to us, which was a mistake. On the highest platform, we find a table, bedroll, and other supplies. It seems the conjurers were making themselves at home. Leaping from the bottom tier of Fort Bulwark, we are safely cushioned by the boots of the Crusader and enter the large double doors of the fort. Once inside, we see we're in a well-lit corridor that snakes around to the left. Following the path, we then spy another conjurer that is guarding the hallway, and so we equip our bow for a stealth kill, as to not prematurely alert his brethren. Leaving the fallen foe to his fate, we then turn to the door to our west. Upon opening it, we see a large hall with a snaking path that leads to a drawbridge that is currently up, and a scamp that guards it. Dispatching the diminutive foe, we do not see a conjurer, but know instinctively where there are Daedra, conjurers will be sure to follow. And so we open the door to the west and follow another long snaking hall down deeper into the bowels of Fort Bulwark. Candles litter the sides of the walls, freshly lit, and as we ascend the stairs we hear more voices.
Hello? Who's there?
And equip our bow accordingly. To the east, we see a closed grate, and to the northwest,
You'll never take me down.
We see two more conjurers that have made camp inside the fort. Plucking the many arrows that pepper the foul fiend's corpses, we head inside their makeshift sanctum and see it used to be an armory of sorts. Now dilapidated and broken down, there are various pieces of iron armor littered about, clearly no use for a conjurer who relies so heavily on spells. To the northern wall, we find one of the conjurer's notes sitting atop a table near an alembic and skull, which reads, acolytes. The shield is here, we know this, and yet we have not found it. The fort has been cleansed, and yet it still eludes us. No doubt it was hidden from the eyes such as ours, hidden with the intent to keep it from those who would learn its secrets. The gate to the lower levels no longer halts our progress. Make note of the candles along the wall if you would pass through. The fort must be held at all costs if we are to succeed. Let none enter. Leave no foe standing. We then pocket the note as it is the key to entering the lower levels and search a nearby chest which holds gold, a lockpick, and a petty soul gem. Before we exit the room, we turn about and see just to our right a large handle. Turning it clockwise, we hear the grate nearby has opened and head back to the eastern passageway that we passed by before. Following its snaking tunnel, we then see another large handle which we can turn, and in doing so, it has the drawbridge descend as well as the gate open to the floor below. We make our way back to the main area with the drawbridge still drawn where we felled the scamp, and now head through the northern door that we had just unlocked and see candles and pressure plates that were spoken of in the note. To the western wall we see one candle, then over the next pressure plate we see 2 and 3 and then 1 again. As we step on them, the plates make a curious noise. Stepping on a different plate sounds like. It's from these audible clues and the visual clues from the candles that we can discern from left to right. The candle denotes the successful numbering in which we have to step on the pressure plate. So we step on candle 1 on the first, the second, third, and then to the left, the first again, and the gate ascends as we have figured out the puzzle correctly. Skyrim would be proud of this dungeon design. The next room that we enter is a long, narrow hallway with large ceilings above, and as we look to the right, we see that it is some form of prison, as there is a skeleton in the far left corner that has been left to decay and rot. Heading into the western corridor, we see a small door to the south, and opening the old wooden door, we find a bedroll and a chest which has a potion of cure poison, damage fatigue scroll, and 8 gold. About facing and heading north, we see smatterings of blood on the floor, and a jailer conjurer comes to meet us in combat. Our holy retribution in the form of the Mace of Zenithar comically ragdolls the body of the creepy conjurer, and we loot the conjurer of his petty potions. Heading inside the room in which he occupied, we see it is some form of torture chamber with crude tools laid about. Much of the original supplies of the fort have been pilfered by the conjurers or disheveled, and it seems their previous occupants, or perhaps prisoners, have long since succumbed to their torturous wounds. Making our way out of the grotesque chamber, we then head to the northern wall and see, is that an alive prisoner inside their cell? Cautiously approaching, he pleads,
"Open the gate, please! I must get out of here!"
After witnessing the horrors the other prisoners had succumbed to at the hands of the conjurers, we dutifully open the grate, and he thanks.
"Thank you for rescuing me. I've lost track of how long they've held me here."
"How long have they held you here? And who are you?"
"I am Sir Thedret. I came here seeking the shield of the Crusader, and was ambushed by these cowards. They've held me here since."
We can imagine the conjurers don't appreciate competition, but what are you doing here?
"I've been held prisoner by these scoundrels for the longest time. They want to know how to reach the shield, and believed I would help them. When I refused, they locked me here, and only let me out to torture me. They got nothing from me."
Admirable that Sir Thedret could hold out. Tell me, sir, can you help me?
"I can't go with you if that's what you mean. I'm too weak. I need to rest. Once I have my strength, I will certainly join your cause. You'll have to go on alone, but the knowledge I've gained may be of use to you."
Please tell me what you know so I can acquire the shield before the accursed conjurers do.
"Before finding this place, I learned a bit about those who created it. It's designed to keep the shield hidden and safe. Phrase kept coming up in the writings I found. When the eyes of the Guardians are upon you, Julianos will show you favor. I'm not sure how, but I just know it's a clue for making it safely through these ruins. You're the only one I've told. I hope it helps you.
When the eyes of Julianos are upon you, it's then Sir Thedred takes his leave and we can approach him once more.
I must get out of this pit and get myself some rest. We'll meet again. Don't worry.
It should be noted that Sir Thedred is heading to the Priory of the Nine. However, if you did not free him, he would still make his way there by himself. With Sir Thedred's path cleared, we then head to the northern double doors. Descending a small flight of steps, we see to the west a smaller door. Inside, we find a sinister scamp and its master lying in wait. With a scream of pain, the conjurer's body is broken. In the northwestern corner, we see a bed and a few chests where the conjurer had set up shop. Inside the chest is a weak potion of light and some gold. The other chests have been broken into, its contents long pilfered by the interlopers. In the second room, we find a lone round table with various valuables atop it, one of which is a conjurer's note that reads, "The prisoner remains uncooperative. There is little doubt that he was on his own, and none will come to his aid. It has been made clear to him that unless he reveals what he knows, he shall pay most dearly. And yet, he still holds out. We give it one more week. If he does not help us reach the shield, he is to be disposed of, preferably in a manner most painful." It appears we arrived just in time for poor Sir Thedred. So then we collect the scattered coins on the table and the few gems, including a ruby and flawed topaz, leaving the skull but robbing the necromancers of precious sustenance. Heading through the western door, and after some time of navigating the maze-like structure of Fort Bulwark, we finally come across the statues in which Sir Thedred spoke of. However, the Guardians are not just stone in nature, and so we assassinate the lingering conjurers from the shadows. Unfortunately for us, the second conjurer standing by the statues is a little more resistant to physical harm, taunting our attempts.
This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death.
As we pepper the conjurer with arrows, she summons a Daedric weapon. And in response, we meet her in melee combat with our Mace of Zenithar, which sends her high in the air before her body convulses. Just another pathetic conjurer of cheap tricks. Instead, we have a moment to take in the large statue of Julianos atop some steps, his multiple guardians facing in various directions. To the southern wall, we see that our pathway is blocked, and we must figure out Julianos' logic-based riddle, as we had been instructed by Sir Thedred. Opening our journal, we scrawled his instructions, which read, "When the eyes of the guardians are upon you, Julianos will show you favor." Breaking down the puzzle into each step, we then ascend the stairs and look at the statue of Julianos and see he is facing to the middle triangle in which he holds, and yet the statues are all looking away. Turning to the closest statue, we see if we turn a handle that they begin to rotate clockwise. Julianos looks straight ahead, and below is his symbol, no doubt which his followers would genuflect to their deity. And as such, we begin to rotate all of the statues to face the direction in which Julianos is looking. With the guardians all facing us, we look up to meet the deity's gaze. The fire pits in front of the statue then erupt, revealing the secret door, opening the path before us. Heading inside, we head ever deeper down, descending into the bowels of Fort Bulwark to meet whatever lay on the other side. Traversing another winding tunnel into the heart of the fort, we re-emerge in a stone structure and see a final door. Inside, we spy a large lit room with a stairway in the center, and in the middle of which lies a single stone chest and Julianos' now familiar triangle insignia. So too, lining the room are several chests and stone guardians with their backs facing to us once more. Beginning to ascend the stairs, our quest updates reading, "I found some sort of puzzle or trap deep inside Fort Bulwark. I'll need to figure out what it means in order to acquire the shield of the Crusader." As we approach the stairs, we hear the sound of a stone unlocking a pressure pad underfoot, but nothing seems to occur. Instead, we then open the casket in front of us, which bequeaths us a random item named Rodgar's Goblet. Only by scanning the room do we see in the southwest corner a book floats above another chest. If we approach the book-bearing chest, it will then appear empty, and it's only when we place our own goblet inside does it disappear and the chest atop the stairs effectively resets, gifting us another random item and showing us an adjacent item in a random chest. This is, for all intents and purposes, a convoluted game of memory in which you have to match the item in the chest with the picture that pops above a random chest in the room. Yet, the catch is you have to painstakingly go through the entire random sequence to learn which item goes where. Successfully completing the logic-based puzzle, the fire pits once again erupt to mark the puzzle's completion. We can then head up the stairs and into a dimly lit chamber, and at the northern end, 4 guardians are placed adjacent to a final set of stairs with a stone slab aglow at the top. As if awaiting our arrival, the shield of Julianos awaits, with paraphernalia befitting a deity of logic and wisdom, with potions of sorcery and insight, scales to weigh up decisions, and scrolls of restore intelligence and willpower. After gathering up the useful items, we finally lay our sight on the blessed shield, and as we collect it, our quest updates, rather pragmatically saying, "I have recovered the shield of the Crusader." We then pause to admire the craftsmanship of the shield. A kite shield in nature, like the more generic counterparts we carry, it is instead adorned with wings and decorative steel on its edges, but more impressive, its ability to deflect spells by 10%. With shield in hand, we leave the defiled fort and return to the Priory once more. Inside, we see the knights are all sleeping, as well as a new member, Sir Thedret, taking advantage of well-earned rest. When approaching him, he will speak to us and greets.
Did I not say we would meet again? I am here and ready to serve. I will join your order, and together we will fight this new threat against the Nine. Glory to the Nine.
Leaving Thedret to his rest and with a new companion to boot, we can then head downstairs and see another unfamiliar face in the armory, an imperial blacksmith.
What is it?
Sergius Terrianus.
Sergius Terrianus, at your service. Thedret and I go way back, and he said there was need of a blacksmith here. It'd be an honor to provide what service I can. So, you need anything repaired, you come see me.
Take care.
I guess it's true what they say. No good deed goes unrewarded. And although approaching Sir Henrik again in the Undercroft does not gift us any extra dialogue at the conclusion of the quest,
I am at your service, Commander.
Our efforts this day have been more than rewarded with our new shield and allies, undoubtedly invaluable for the trials ahead. Chapter 7, Stendarr's Mercy. With the shield of Julianos firmly in our grasp, few items of the Crusader are left for us to collect, and so we speak to the spectre of the former Redguard, Sir Casimir, among the circle of knights, who admits,
I know where you may find the gauntlets of the Crusader, for I was the one who lost them. Though many know where they are still lost. I believe there is something you must do in order to retrieve them. Would you listen to my tale and learn of the gauntlet's fate?
Happy to oblige and learn the location of the gauntlets, we say, please tell me.
When the order fractured, I followed Sir Beric into war, taking the gauntlets with me. When it was over, I returned to Cyrodiil. I attempted to return to the service of the Nine, but the war had changed me. I no longer had sympathy for the weak or pity for the suffering. In the brief time I was there, I did more to hurt the chapel than help it. It was there that I was cursed.
Although Sir Casimir's tale and affection of his personality wounds him deeply, we can be callous and say, get to the point.
Your attitude does not bode well. Nevertheless, you may yet succeed where I failed.
Instead, we respectfully ask, cursed? What do you mean?
A beggar who came to the chapel each day for help tried my patience one too many times. I lost my temper and struck him. My blow landed harder than I had intended, and he fell to the floor dead, killed in the very chapel of the God of Mercy. I left the chapel at once, of course, but the damage was done. I was weak, constantly weary, and lacked the energy to do almost anything.
Hearing Sir Casimir's tale, we can barely believe our ears. He struck a defenseless beggar outside of the church of Stendarr, the God of Mercy. We then ask the man damned by the divines and say, "What about the gauntlets?"
Ah, yes. As proof of the deed, when I struck the poor man, the gauntlets slipped right off my hands and fell to the floor. Heavy as stone, they would not move. None could lift them. I suspect they lie there still, in Coral's chapel. You must prove to Stendarr you are worthy to lift the gauntlets once more. Seek out the priests in Coral. Perhaps they can help you.
We can only begin to imagine what selfless act or incantation that the gods would demand to lift this curse. And so we ask Sir Casimir before leaving, what of the curse? Do you know how we could lift it?
It was placed on me for defying the teachings of Stendarr in his very chapel. My entire lineage was ruined by this curse. Whether it is connected to the fate of the gauntlets, I do not know.
His entire lineage. May Stendarr have mercy on their souls. So then we ask, do you know the exact location of the gauntlets of the Crusader?
I have no doubt that they still lie within the Chapel of Stendarr in Coral. No mortal man could lift them.
No mortal? Perhaps the divines must intervene. And what of the knights?
We had only the best of intentions. Truly we did. We meant only to serve the Nine and the Empire. It's hard to believe it all went so wrong.
Well, they say the path to Oblivion is paved with good intentions, and Umaril has returned from that very plane to seek his vengeance. So then we seek the wisdom of the other knights about and first speak to Sir Caius, who says of the gauntlets.
The gauntlets were recovered by Sir Casimir, one of our few victories during our time. But then, even our victories became our failure. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
So then we speak to Sir Juncan, who shares.
Sir Casimir took the gauntlets to war with him. After what happened with Beric, who would try to stop him? Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
We then speak to the elf Sir Ralvus, who says,
Casimir left with the gauntlets when the order dissolved. I heard that he lost them, but I had my own problems to deal with. Go with virtue.
And finally, before seeking out the gauntlets, we speak to Sir Casimir once more, and he imparts.
Seek out the priests in the Chapel of Stendarr. They may be able to help you retrieve the gauntlets I lost so many years ago. Go with virtue.
As we move to leave in search of the gauntlets, a quest update saying, Sir Casimir has told me the gauntlets of the Crusader are located in the Chapel of Stendarr in Coral. I must travel there and figure out how to retrieve them. As we make our way northwest across the cobbled path of Coral and towards the Chapel of Stendarr and across a beggar out front, a stark reminder of Sir Casimir's transgressions, and he says,
Have pity, sir. I got nothing to eat.
Cautious after Sir Casimir's tale, we bequeath the beggar with a single coin, and he blesses.
Thank you, kind sir. Blessings of Stendarr upon ye.
If only Sir Casimir did the same so many years ago, he and his line would not suffer the terrible curse. Once entering into the church, we then speak to the nearby chapel healer, Guerrerin Selvillo, who welcomes.
I'm the chapel healer, Guerrerin Selvillo. We're glad to see you paying your respects here at the chapel.
It's our pleasure, good sir. Can you tell us anything of the gauntlets of the Crusader?
Oh, those. You'll want to speak to Arelder about them. He's in charge of keeping people away from them.
So there is another priest, Arelder, keeping others away from the gauntlets. Curious. And what can you tell us of Coral itself?
In Coral, we Highlanders treat our gods' teachings as rules to live by. Our lives are governed by the 10 Commands. Goodbye.
And the mortals who stray from the 10 Commands should fear the wrath of the divines. Heading towards the chapel altar, we see an Imperial sporting a monk haircut named Otius Loran, living embodiment of Stendarr's virtues.
I'm Otius Loran, primate of Stendarr. You stand before God's servant in the House of the Nine. Be humble and show respect.
Indeed, good sir. Can you tell us of the gauntlets of the Crusader we've heard of?
The gauntlets, eh? They're Arelder's responsibility. Speak to him about them.
Goodbye.
Once again, we're pointed to Erelda, who is a high elf priest standing between the shrines of Julianos and Akatosh in the western wall. Approaching him, he questions,
"What brings you here, my son?"
"We're on a divine quest to locate the gauntlets of the Crusader."
"Ah, yes. The gauntlets have been here for ages. I know only the basic story behind them. They're more of a novelty these days. My only real involvement with them these days is keeping the youngsters from hurting themselves trying to pick the gauntlets up. What is your interest in them, if I may ask?"
"I've come to retrieve the gauntlets."
"Oh, I'm afraid that's quite impossible. They don't move, not even a bit, as if they're the heaviest things in the world. Don't you know the story behind them? I'm not familiar with all the details, but I know roughly what happened."
It's then we can somewhat foolishly bypass the story and say, "I don't care, I want them."
"I'm telling you, you can't pick them up. Try it yourself if you won't believe me. If you won't listen to me, then go ask Kellen. He's descended from the very knight who was cursed. He'll tell you the same thing."
Ignoring Erelda's warning, we head to the northwestern side of the chapel. Encircled in candles and commemorative flowers are the gauntlets of the Crusader. However, when we try to lift them, a pop-up appears saying, "The gauntlets are too heavy to move." Striking them with the divine mace, they refuse to budge on the floor, and so we're forced to return to Erelda for further guidance, in which she reveals the dark past of the gloves.
"Yes, well, I don't know the whole thing. A great many years ago, a knight of the old order did something terrible, and the gauntlets just fell off. They dropped to the floor right where he stood, and no one could lift them. It was a sign of the curse placed upon this knight by Stendarr, I think. That curse still lingers on today, in fact. Poor Kellen."
Who is Kellen?
"Oh, why, he's a descendant of that very knight from so long ago. The curse has affected his family all these years. He suffers from it now. He came here from Hammerfell seeking a cure, but, well, there's really nothing that can be done for him, I think. He may know more of the story than I. Perhaps you should speak with him, if he's feeling well enough."
What a horrific fate for Kellen. Why would he still be cursed?
"It's a horrible thing, truly. One cannot help but pity those such as Kellen, who have such a burden placed on them through no fault of their own. But if it is the will of the Nine, then there is little that can be done."
Something doesn't add up. Why would the Divines be so cruel to Kellen? Because of his lineage, no less.
"The gauntlets have been here far longer than any of us. I don't expect that to ever change. They'll almost certainly be here long after we're all gone. Certainly after Kellen's family has died out."
After Kellen's family has died out? What a morbid thought. Where is poor Kellen now?
"He's down in the chapel hall, resting. You may speak to him if you like. Ask Kellen about the curse." "Have you heard any word about the other provinces?"
Leaving Erelda, our quest then updates saying, "Erelda, a priest of Stendarr has told me about the gauntlets of the Crusader that cannot be moved. I should speak with Kellen, a descendant of Sir Casimir, to learn more." Heading downstairs into the chapel hall, we then find in the west wing in a small room, the Redguard Kellen sitting atop a bed, looking pained in the strength it takes to feed himself. Approaching him, he says,
What is it? Is there a cure? Has Erelda found a cure? I know there's something he's not telling me.
"I'm sorry I haven't found a cure. Can you tell me more about this curse and perhaps I can help, though?"
Ah, so you've heard it, have you? Terrible curse. Been in the family almost longer than anyone can remember. When I was younger, I could live with it. Wasn't so bad. But it's only gotten worse over time. I'd come here, to the place it all happened, in the hopes that something could be done. I fear I haven't much time left otherwise. Erelda has let me stay, mostly out of pity, I think. But there's something else. I swear he knows more than he tells.
Why would Erelda withhold information that could help cure you? It makes no sense.
I've seen plenty of pity in people's eyes over the years. I grew up recognizing it. But with Erelder, there's something else there. And when he speaks to me, there are times I'd swear he sounds apologetic. Guilty, even. Why would that be? What reason does he have to hold back information? I know I'm a doomed man one way or the other. Speak to him if you can. Convince him to tell me what he knows as a dying man's last wish.
Before we leave to speak to the High Elf, we ask, look, I'm sorry to bring it up, but do you perhaps know anything about the gauntlets that could help us?
You've seen them, I assume. The only evidence of what happened so many years ago. Do you know that I thought perhaps I could lift them? That somehow this curse would be lifted if I could pick them up? I tried for hours, until my whole body ached, and I could barely move. I lay there on the floor next to them, weeping. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I've been at the end of my rope for far too long to be ashamed of anything. I don't know why they're still here. They're so heavy, and I'm so weak. What does Stendarr want from me? Goodbye.
What possibly could Stendarr, the divine aspect of mercy, want with poor Kellen? We head back into the chapel and try. And so we make our way into the chapel, up the stairs, and by the altar near the gauntlet stands the High Elf Erelder, and we have more questions for him.
Welcome, Knight Commander.
Indeed. We spoke to Kellen, and he says you know more than you let on.
I cannot face him. I know what might be done for him, but I haven't the will to do it. I wish I could help him, truly I do, but I cannot muster the strength to damn myself on his behalf.
You can't muster the strength to help him? What are you talking about?
The curse. I know what would lift it, but I cannot do it. The only way to free Kellen of his curse is to take it on myself. I am not strong enough to do this, and so I am a failure. I fail Kellen every time I speak to him, and I fail Stendarr every time I pray to him and do not ask for the power to lift the curse. Do you know one who would do such a thing? One who would pray at this chapel's altar, pray to Stendarr for the power to lift this curse?
Once Erelder has explained, we understand his plight, yet are baffled still why Stendarr would want another to bear this curse.
I've told you, the only way to lift the curse from Kellen is to pray to Stendarr for the power to free him. But that means taking the curse on yourself. You'll be marked for life, as will all your children and your children's children. You too.
So if we were to take on the curse, not only would we suffer, but our children's children. With our grim discovery in mind, we head down into the chapel hall to deliver the bad news.
Hello. You've spoken to him, haven't you? And he's told you something you don't want to tell me. I need someone to please tell me what's going on. Please, help me. Have mercy on me.
Kellen, look, it's about the curse.
So what can be done for me? I know you've learned something. I can see it in your face.
We then have two options, and the second is to lie to Kellen, saying, sorry, there's no way to save you.
Really? I see. Then I've no choice but to live out the rest of my days here, I suppose. After all this time, I can't help but hope just a little bit. Hope that somehow there might be a way to save myself.
Even with no cure, you still live in hope that the curse can be lifted?
Even if I am doomed, I still hold out hope that Stendarr will have mercy on me.
What miraculous faith that Kellen shows. We can then instead say, actually, there is a way to lift the curse, but you might not like it.
So someone could only lift the curse from me by taking it on themselves? No wonder Erelder didn't tell me. I'm not sure whether to call him a coward or simply say that I don't blame him. That'd be a large burden to bear. Thank you for being honest with me.
I'm sorry, I wish I could bear better news. I can only imagine how you must feel about another taking the curse in your place.
I'm not sure how I feel. To know that the curse can be lifted gives me hope, but to know that it also means damning another. Would someone taking that responsibility be merciful or suicidal? You too.
Merciful or suicidal, indeed. Although this is the most harrowing of the Crusaders' tasks, we know what must be done, and so we head to the altar. It's there our quest updates, and checking our journal in front of the altar, it reads, "Priest has told me the only way to lift the curse from Kellen is to take it on myself. I need to pray at the altar in the chapel if I wish to lift the curse." We knew the divines demanded sacrifice, but not like this. How will we even defeat Umaril? With little recourse if we are to free Kellen of this malady. We place our full faith in the divines. Praying to Stendarr, we take the curse upon ourselves. Our journal then updates reading, "I've prayed at the altar in the Chapel of Stendarr and have been granted the ability to lay hands on Kellen. I need to see him at once." Descending the stairs, we head inside the chapel hall's west wing where Kellen, perpetually bedridden, awaits our arrival.
Well met.
Inside our spellbook, we find the power Lay on Hands, where we can restore fatigue 10 on Kellen. The spell touches the Imperial, a quest update saying, "I have lifted the curse from Kellen," which means taking it on myself. As a result, I am weary and my fatigue has been affected. With the curse lifted, I can now retrieve the gauntlets of the Crusader, but at what price?
How did you? I feel good. I feel good. I don't feel like death. I feel like running.
Entirely forget our fatigue symptoms as Kellen pops out of bed and starts sprinting around the hall cheering.
Look at me.
As our own fatigue begins to drain as we catch up to Kellen, he remarks,
"I can't believe it. I feel normal." Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me. I know what you've done to free me from this curse. I don't claim to understand why you take it on yourself, but I appreciate it. It means more to me than I can say. Now I think I need to start living my life. I'm going to get out of here and see the world. Thank you, friend. Take care.
Momentarily winded, we pause and see the effect on ourselves is the Curse of the Consumed, where it damages our fatigue 5, and our fatigue is depleted even by simply running. Shunting the newly formed pain aside, we see the High Elf priest Erelda once more and let him know that Kellen is freed of the curse.
Hi there. You lifted the curse? But that means that now you've cursed yourself. Why would you do such a thing? You too.
Leaving the priest of Stendarr to his disbelief, we have little more to do but to lift the gauntlets of the Crusader. Ironically, once equipped, the gauntlets boast +5 to restoration, +50% resist to disease, and a spell called Merciful Touch, which restores 50 health points on touch. Feeling the healing power of Stendarr's gauntlets firsthand shakes Erelda's faith to its core.
I can't believe you were willing to do that for Kellen. To sacrifice your own well-being without hesitation. What business do I have acting as a priest if I'm not willing to do all I can in helping those who need it? Perhaps I need to rethink my calling.
With that, Erelda about faces to leave the chapel. We can try and stop him, but he simply says,
"Please, leave me be. I need time to think on what I've seen and done. Good day."
And as we leave the chapel, as if destiny had ordained it, an old beggar approaches a guard who brushes him aside callously.
"A coin for an old beggar?"
Miraculously, when we return to the Priory, we find Erelda chatting to one of the knights, and approaching him he says,
"I find myself here, at your disposal. I want to make up for the mistakes I've made, and devote myself fully to the faith. If it pleases you, I would join your order and serve the 9 at your side. What say you?"
Not holding him to his past mistakes or errs against the 9, we say, "I accept. Welcome to the order."
"Thank you. It means a great deal to me. Excuse me while I gather the equipment I need."
So Erelda leaves to become better equipped in the armory.
You're not alone. We all find the waiting difficult at times. I will pray for you, and I ask the same of you. Go with the blessing.
Until later, Sir Knight.
Commander.
Commander.
We then make our way downstairs to fully welcome Arelda into the Order and ask him of the gauntlets one last time, and he says,
"It is an honor to serve under you, Crusader. Take care."
And with that, the end of the quest for the Crusader's relics draws near, with only 2 relics remaining. Chapter 8, The Faithful Squire. After obtaining the gauntlets of the Crusader from the Chapel of Stendarr, our quest then updates saying, "I've completed Sir Casimir's quest by recovering the gauntlets. I should return to the Priory and find out if there is any news of the remaining 2 relics." With our quest end drawing near, we head back to the Priory and find a familiar face. Is that Sir Lathon? Looking forlorn, he approaches us bearing terrible news.
Sir Knight, thank Arche you are back. I have terrible news. Sir Roderick, I think he's dead.
If we had not yet met Sir Roderick, this would be an appropriate response, and we could say, "Sir Roderick, who's that?"
A holy knight, like you, questing for the relics at the Prophet's call. I was his squire. I believed he was chosen by the gods to reclaim the relics.
However, as we knew Sir Roderick and admired his devotion, as he accompanied us to pray at some of the way shrines, we instead ask, what happened?
At first things were going well. He prayed at all the shrines and received a vision, a disturbing vision. The shade of Sir Beric spoke to me was all he said. We must put him to rest. We traveled back and forth across Colovia. He was always asking about an old noble family, the Vlindrels. Finally, he found what he was looking for. We went to Underpole Cave, and there he fell.
So Sir Roderick sought out Sir Beric, the member of the Knights of the Order who not only left the Order, but with bad blood. We can only guess at how Sir Roderick was lured to his demise, though we say to Sir Lathon, I'm sure he died well.
He did. I owe him my life. He faced the evil wraith of Lord Vlindrel and told me to run. And I did. I know I should have stayed with him. Perhaps together we could have destroyed that evil thing.
The wraith of Lord Vlindrel. We'll remember that name. Tell me, what was Sir Roderick looking for?
He said that Sir Beric's tomb was in Underpole Cave, which is no cave, but some kind of buried keep. He had learned that Sir Beric had once been a questing knight, like us. He had found the greaves and sword of the Crusader, but then turned to evil. Sir Roderick hoped to find the relics within Sir Beric's tomb, and he did. But we also found a terrible guardian, the wraith of Lord Vlindrel, Sir Beric.
Wait, so Sir Beric was Lord Vlindrel in life, and where he was buried he is now a wraith guarding the remaining 2 relics, the sword of the Crusader and the greaves. Tell me, do you know where these relics are now?
Yes, my lord, and I brought you. Sir Roderick shouted for me to take them. The greaves, the holy relic, they're yours.
And so Sir Lathon hands us the greaves of the Crusader, but we realize we are still 1 relic short and say, and the sword, what happened to it?
The wraith. It used it against Sir Roderick. I don't know how that evil thing could use the holy weapon, but it did. It screamed as it struck.
We can only imagine the harrowing horror of being helpless as your master is struck down before you with a holy relic now tainted. And so we then comfort Sir Lathon saying, take it easy, you're safe now.
I'm sorry. I remember Sir Roderick saying something about the sword before we went to Underpole. It may be important. He was worried that the sword may have been turned to evil, that it may have to be reconsecrated on the altar of its creator, the Divine Arche. That's all I remember. I hope it may help you.
Well, we can worry about consecrating the sword after we deal with the wraith of Sir Vlindrel and thank Lathon, saying, you did well, Lathon.
Thank you, Sir Knight. I would ask a boon if I could, although I know I do not deserve it. Would you make me a Knight of the Nine? I want to dedicate myself to ridding the world of evil. I owe it to Sir Roderick.
Sensing Lathon's trauma has not yet subsided, we can say, "Not yet. I'm sorry you're not ready."
I understand. I'll be patient. I'll stay here and train every day until you decide I'm ready. I won't give up, I swear it.
However, reconsidering upon approaching him, he'll ask,
As I said, I'll work as long as it takes to be worthy to join the Order. Am I ready to become a Knight of the Nine?
"I accept. Welcome to the Order. Rise, Sir Lathon."
Thank you, Sir Knight. I will not fail you.
Now a Knight of the Order, we ask Sir Lathon more questions and say, what happened with the Greaves?
Sir Roderick died so that I could bring you the Greaves. Use them to good purpose.
Can you tell us more of Sir Roderick?
He told me to run, but I shouldn't have listened. I should have stayed and helped him. Maybe together we could have defeated this wraith.
And he was cut down by the very sword of the Crusader, designed by the Divines to face evil. How is this sword misappropriated for Vlindrel's fiendish purposes?
The wraith of Lord Vlindrel used the sword against Sir Roderick. I don't know how it twisted the holy sword to its evil purpose.
What is the significance of this Underpole cave? I've never even heard of it before.
It's not really a cave, but seemed to be the buried ruins of an old keep. Sir Roderick believed that it used to be the ancestral seat of Lord Vlindrel before some cataclysm buried it beneath the earth.
Now knowing the location of the final Crusader's relic, Sir Lathon then requests,
Give me a moment to arm myself, and I will accompany you to Underpall Cave to destroy the foul wraith.
As the newest member of the Knights of the Crusader, it's then Sir Lathon heads down into the armory, where we meet him before setting off to avenge his fallen master.
I am at your command, Sir Knight.
Before we depart for Underpall Cave, we have one final stop, and heading into the Priory's undercroft, we see Sir Beric's fallen comrades, one of which being Sir Emil. Informing him of the grim news of the sword, he responds,
Greetings, Sir Knight.
Unfortunately, Sir Beric has slain Sir Roderick with the Crusader's sword.
It seems that he fell further into evil than even I had feared.
I have no doubt that it all began on the day that he left the Order with the sword and greaves. Sir Caius tried to stop him. They fought, and Sir Beric slew Sir Caius with the holy sword on the Priory steps. That was the end of the old order. Many of Sir Beric's friends left with him. I tried to hold the rest together, but it was no use. If you destroy the wraith that Sir Beric has become, you will be doing him a service. You must free him from the evil that has ensnared him. May the Nine guide your way.
With renewed instructions from Sir Emil to free Vlindrel from his ghostly prison, we finally speak to Sir Caius, who Sir Beric had struck down.
I am at your service, Commander. Alas, that the evil begun on the day of my death should have struck so deep. When Sir Beric said he would take his relics with him to war, and would not listen to Sir Emil's pleas, I allowed my anger to get the best of me. Know that I was the one who drew weapon first against Sir Beric. He merely defended himself and proved the better swordsman. And now, because of me, evil has claimed his very soul. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
With multiple grim revelations from Sir Beric's fallen comrades, we leave the Priory and meet Sir Lathon by his horse in the stable, beginning our long journey as he leads us to Underpall Cave, east of Coral, sitting just above the Orange Road. Approaching the cave, our quest updates saying, I've arrived at Underpall Cave, the location of Lord Vlindrel's grave. Sir Roderick died somewhere inside, battling the foul wraith that now wields the sword of the Crusader. As we head to the entrance of the cave, unsheathing our mace, we dispatch an errant mongrel pup, and then we turn to Sir Lathon, who greets,
I am at your command, Sir Knight.
And we instruct him to follow us.
Don't worry, I'll stick close.
Entering the cave's entrance, Sir Lathon states,
This is the way Sir Roderick and I came.
Before leading the way, we cast upon him the power which the Greaves had bestowed upon us, the Blessing of the Eight, a lesser power which shields others on touch for 20% for 60 seconds. It should be noted Lathon is a non-essential character and therefore can die at any time, so shielding him and generally guarding him if you want the Wandering Knight to survive the ordeal is highly recommended. Following Lathon into the depths of the cave, the map boasts 5 sprawling zones, and as promised, through the cave system, we happen upon a large underground keep. Although the map itself is vast and so is the cave network, there honestly isn't much to see outside of battling undead, necromancers, and depending on your level, vampires. So, for expediency's sake, we're going to skip to the final zone. Plumbing the depths of the final chamber, we come across a rat gnawing on a corpse by a stone sarcophagus.
For Akatosh and the Nine! Yes, Commander?
After felling the fetid foe, we see it is indeed the corpse of poor Sir Roderick sprawled on the floor, and Sir Lathon gives a few words for the deceased.
Sir Roderick, you were a brave knight and good master. Long may your name be remembered in the annals of the relics.
On Sir Roderick's body we find his armor and a smithing hammer, but as we feared, no sword. Likewise, in Lord Vindrel's tomb, we similarly find his knight's armor inside of his sarcophagus, yet no sword. Turning to the nearby chest on the western wall, we locate some mort flesh and a few pieces of gold, yet moving to the southern wall, we find another corpse with a ring and bone meal. Perhaps Sir Beric's? As we turn to the southern door and open it, to our horror, we find a lone wraith with sword in hand overlooking the reflective chamber's great lake, attempting to take the phantom unawares, but a skeleton guard ambles into sight and we stealthily equip our bow to dispatch the fiend. We then sling a single arrow at Lord Beric Vindrel, to no effect. Cursing ourselves, we equip the Crusader's mace, rushing to meet Vindrel head-on in battle. His spell's corrosive touch claws into our skin through our armor, yet our shield dutifully deflects some of the damage. Remembering Lathon's words about facing the fiend together and Sir Roderick's fate, we duck back into the tomb to bottleneck the spirit. Lathon signals for us to deliver the killing blow.
Beware! Hail, Commander.
Our quest then updates saying, the wraith of Lord Vindrel is destroyed. I need to reclaim the sword of the Crusader that he somehow twisted to his evil purpose. Once recovering said sword, which we had to reload as the first one just simply disappeared, we also then learnt that Sir Lathon doesn't carry a sword of his own and bafflingly opts instead to work Vlindrel's ghost kidneys with his fists.
Take that!
However, when our deed is succeeded, and picking up the sword, our quest update saying, I've recovered the sword of the Crusader, but it has been desecrated by the foul wraith that wielded it. I should take it to the Chapel of Arkay in Cheydinhall to consecrate it to its holy purpose. With sword in hand, we speak to Sir Lathon for a final time, and he rejoices.
Sir Roderick is avenged, and you have recovered the sword of the Crusader. I'll return to the Priory and give my fellow knights the good news. Farewell!
And with Sir Lathon's master, Sir Roderick avenged, he leaves for the Priory of the Nine, and we are left to consecrate the once holy sword of the Crusader, if we are to stand a chance at defeating the Sorcerer King, Umaril. Chapter 9, The Blessings of Talos. After completing the quest, The Faithful Squire, in which we successfully destroy the wraith of Lord Vlindrel, Sir Lathon congratulates us, saying,
Sir Roderick is avenged, and you have recovered the sword of the Crusader. I'll return to the Priory and give my fellow knights the good news. Farewell!
As Lathorn returns to the Priory, we then depart on our own quest to reconsecrate the sword of the Crusader, now befouled by Beric's spirit. However, as we enter the great Chapel of Arkay in Cheydinhal, we're met by a disturbing scene. Again, we find the priest slain, but this time by Auroran assailants.
What's the matter, getting tired? Whoa! Die, cur!
Post destroying the foes, our quest then updates reading. Umaril's Aurorans have been destroyed. Cheydinhal Chapel is safe, for now. I can now reconsecrate the Sword of the Crusader to Arkay on the High Altar. Before doing so, we check on those slain by Umaril's minions, starting with the High Elf healer Otesse, slain between the pews of the chapel's Great Hall.
Blessings of the Nine. I'm Otessa the healer. By the grace of Mara, I offer advanced training in the restoration arts. I'm happy to be of service in any way I can, in any place I can. There are so many who need help, and so few to offer it.
We next find sprawled by the altar a high elf pilgrim, Erendil, who in life was Arkay's living spirit.
I'm Erendil, living saint of Arkay, and the chapel's chief crusader against the wicked practice of necromancy. It's a scandal that the Mages Guild has tolerated practice of the black arts among its members for so long. The current Archmage, Hannibal Traven, is true and bold to prohibit necromancy, reversing the Guild's shameful past policies of official tolerance.
With the sword in hand and stepping over the fallen, we dip it in the cleansing pools of Arkay's altar, and our quest reads: The Sword of the Crusader has been reconsecrated. I now possess all 8 of the Crusader's relics. I should return to the Priory to consult with my knights about how to attack and destroy Umaril. Before leaving for the Priory, it's then we're beckoned by the surviving priestess, Gruana, who thanks.
I'm in your debt for saving the Chapel of Arkay from being defiled by those foul creatures. I closely supervise the priests and healers of Cheydinhal Chapel, so they might more closely approach the sacred ideals of our faith.
With all the Crusaders' relics now in our possession, we have still yet to be free of the malady the gauntlets of Stendarr bestowed upon us, sapping our precious fatigue, yet, regardless, we must press on. Arriving back at the Priory, we're stopped out front of the main building by Sir Thedred, who informs.
Lord Crusader, the prophet is here. He's just arrived. He seemed to know you were coming, told me to wait for you, and here you are. Come. He is preaching to the assembled knights in the chapel. You should speak to him at once.
Following Thedred into the chapel, we see indeed the prophet preaching by the altar, with all of our brothers in arms seated, and a new face, a Bosma, Brelin, who greets.
Sir Knight, allow me to introduce myself. I am Brelin of Silvenar, at your service. I come to offer myself as a knight in service of Auriel, or Akatosh as he is known in Cyrodiil. I bring nothing but my skill with the blade, which is not inconsiderable, and my devotion to the Lord Auriel. Will you accept me, as unworthy as I am?
Although we can say you are not worthy, we need all the bodies we can get at this point and say, I accept. Welcome to the Order.
I am honored to join the Order under your illustrious command. Excuse me while I go to the armory and attire myself as befits a Knight of the Nine.
As we leave the newly knighted Sir Brelin to collect his gear, we look over all of the knights who have joined the Order and the prophet before them, and momentarily turn to Sir Erelda, who guides.
The time has come, Crusader. You should speak with the prophet.
Sensing the end of our trials draws near, we approach the prophet in front of the altar, and he proclaims,
You have stepped from the humble shadows of obscurity and into legend. No feat you have accomplished in your life compares to what you have become. You are an embodiment of Pelinal Whitestrake, the bane of Umaril the Unfeathered. The time has come for you to fulfill your destiny. Umaril lies hid in the ancient fane of Garlus Malatar. You must go there and destroy him?
So, I am ready then.
No. Should you face Umaril, you would suffer the same fate as Pelinal. But times change, and even the shape of the divine itself must change with it. Where once there were 8, now one more stands with them, and they have become 9.
You mean Talos?
Aye! With the apotheosis of Tiber Septim, the face of the divine was transformed. Talos ascended, and the 8 became 9. So, although you wear the armor of the gods, it is incomplete, a relic of the old ways and the old gods.
Look, honestly, I don't know much about the old gods.
Then it is past time that you learned. If you would serve the 9, you should know of them. Have you heard of the god Talos, one of the 9? And surely the name of Tiber Septim has not escaped you? Talos and Tiber Septim are one and the same. Rather, Tiber Septim ascended to godhood upon his death and became Talos. So, although you wear the armor of the gods, it is incomplete. A relic of the old ways and the old gods.
How do I destroy Umaril then?
As a proven guardian of this realm, and a warrior the likes of which have not been seen in millennia, Talos grants you his sacred blessing. With the ancient gifts of the 8 and the new gift of the 1, you are ready to face Umaril.
But what is this new gift of the 1?
Just as the 8 aided Pelinal of old, now the Ascended One, Talos, who was Tiber Septim, provides his blessing to you, the new Crusader.
It's then the prophet bestows upon us the blessing of Talos, and we can ask, what exactly does this blessing do?
It will allow you to follow Umaril into the spirit realm upon his death. It will allow you to destroy him, body and soul, utterly and for all time. You must first kill his living body. While beyond the power of most mortals, this is only the lesser of your 2 tasks. His Daedric nature allows his spirit to escape into oblivion after death. Oh, this is what Pelinal learned upon defeating Umaril the first time. But you can do what Pelinal could not. The blessings of Talos will allow you to follow Umaril's spirit when it leaves his body. This you must do, and you must not fail. You will not, because the 9 fight with you.
So we have to kill Umaril on the physical realm, and then in a spirit plane, thanks to Talos' blessing? We have so many questions. Like, I want to know about Umaril's spirit specifically.
When Umaril joined with the Daedra, his spirit expanded beyond this realm. His physical form can travel between realms, but his spirit is bound. When his body is destroyed, his spirit travels back to Oblivion and is reformed in the fires of creation. With the armor of the gods and the blessing of Talos, you will be able to follow him where Pelinal could not and destroy his very spirit. Once his spirit is destroyed, he will be completely obliterated, erased from all realms of existence.
Curse Meridia for granting him such power. And tell me, Prophet, what do you know of this Garlas Malatar?
Garlas Malatar was the westernmost outpost of the Aeliad Empire. It watched over what we call the Abyssinian Sea. Since his return, Umaril has taken Garlas Malatar as his lair. That
is where you must seek him out.
And finally, we should learn, what kind of foe is Umaril? Even with the relics of the Crusader, can he be bested in combat?
Umaril cannot be bested in his physical form by any normal means. His blows can strike down the mightiest of warriors in a single stroke. The Eight created the relics to withstand Umaril's fell power. Do not attempt to face him without this divine protection.
Indeed, it seems we would suffer the same fate as poor Sir Roderick. The prophet further elaborates on the power of the relics, saying,
You have achieved what no knight since the legendary Divine Crusader has achieved. You have reassembled Pelinal's holy armor and weapons. You are truly the Divine Crusader reborn. You are ready to face Umaril and destroy him in the name of the Eight and One.
Although the prophet seems to know nothing about the fatigue that still plagues us, thanks to recovering Stendarr's gauntlets, we must see this crusade through and say, that's all. I'm ready.
Your knights will assemble at Garlus Malatar and await you there. Gather all those who you deem worthy. Not all who enter those halls shall return. Those who fall in service of the Nine will live on forever in the halls of their fathers. I wish you well on your quest, Crusader. We are depending on you.
With no more words of wisdom, the prophet resumes praying to the Nine. Inside our spellbook, we see the Blessing of Talos has been added, which imparts the Blessing of Talos for 30 seconds, Fortify Strength 20 points for 60 seconds on self, Fortify Endurance 20 points for 60 seconds on self, and Drain Speed and Agility 15 points for 60 seconds on self. Not sure what to fully expect, we cast the Blessing of Talos on ourselves and we feel good. The Drain Fatigue spell that had cursed us has been lifted, as if the Divines had seen our fate and have rewarded us in full for putting our faith in their wisdom. Emboldened by our new divine allies, we step outside the chapel, seeing our men gather in wait for us to lead the charge towards Garlus Malatar. However, we have one stop first as we plumb the depths of the Priory Undercroft for perhaps the final time and speak with the spirits therein, starting with,
Hail, Commander.
We can hardly believe it. The ghost of Sir Beric?
You redeemed my soul from the evil that had ensnared me. For that, I am forever in your debt. The old bitterness that seemed so important to me in life. What is that now? How to weigh that against my very soul?
But how? We battled you, and you slew Sir Caius.
The evil took hold of me the day that I slew Sir Caius on the Priory steps. I baited him, knowing his temper, and then I killed him when he drew against me. I killed him in cold blood with the holy sword itself. I could have disarmed him, or wounded him, but a cold pride had taken hold of me, and so I slew him, and went to war, and never returned. The evil grew upon me until I became cruel, a tyrannical ruler, a terror upon the land. In death, evil held me even tighter than in life. Thanks to you, that all is behind me. Sir Caius and I will go to Etheria side by side, as of old. The gods are truly merciful.
If there's one thing we won't question after today, it's the mercy of the Divines. But we must know, how was the sword of the Crusader corrupted?
I took the sword down with me into evil. You have redeemed us both. The gods smile on such deeds, noble knight.
Does that mean the Knights of the Nine are complete once more?
The Knights of the Nine stand together once again.
I would not have thought it possible. We owe you a great debt. May the Nine guide your way.
Standing but a few feet from Sir Beric is none other than the man he slew, Sir Caius, who says,
Greetings, Sir Knight.
Greetings, Sir Caius. Tell me, how do you feel about seeing Sir Beric again?
You put right the evil that I began through my own weakness. Sir Beric is once again part of our fellowship, and shall be forevermore. Go with virtue.
It takes a strong man to take full ownership of his actions. So lastly, we then speak to their leader, Sir Amiel.
I am at your service, Commander.
Tell me, you had bad blood with Sir Beric. What do you make of his return?
While you may have performed greater deeds, none have meant more to me than your redemption of my friend, Beric. Soon we will all finish our long-delayed journey to Aetherius, and Sir Beric will be among us as of old. Thank you.
May the Nine guide your way.
With the blessings of the Eight and One and the spirits at peace, we depart the Priory with our fellow Crusaders in tow, heading towards the last outpost of the Aelids and the final confrontation with Umaril, the Sorcerer King.
Hail, Lord Crusader.
Chapter 10, Umaril the Unfeathered.
The time has come for you to fulfill your destiny. Umaril lies hid in the ancient fane of Garlus Malatar. You must go there and destroy him.
After returning to the Priory with all of the Crusaders' relics in our possession, our journal updates instructing, I've been granted the blessing of Talos by the Prophet. I am now ready to destroy Umaril. My knights are on their way to Garlus Malatar to prepare for our final assault on his fortress, and so we journey to the western tip of Cyrodiil, just north of Anvil, to the nearby fort of Crowhaven, and head down the sandy shores banks of the Abyssinian coast. Meeting our fellow Crusaders out front of the fortress, it's then our quest update saying, I have arrived at Garlus Malatar. My sworn foe, Umaril the Unfeathered, awaits me inside. The final duty in my holy quest is to find him and destroy him. As we begin to approach the fortress, our fellow Crusader Caradus questions.
I stand ready, Lord Crusader. Shall we launch our attack on Garlus Malatar?
We then opt to tell him, wait for my signal.
Of course, Commander. We will attack at your command.
As we approach the sprawling, partially submerged Aeliad ruin, we remember the Prophet's words that many of our fellow Crusaders would not return. And as we look down the black void of the Aeliad well, we decide perhaps it's best we do not signal them at all. Cautiously, we approach the double stone door of Garlus Malatar and step inside. Upon entry of the misty ruins, we descend the stairs. Taking no chances, we draw our Crusader's sword, but as we cautiously enter a large cavernous room, we hear behind us,
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
For the Nine!
The entire cadre of Crusaders rush into the room and down the stairs before we can stop them. Ignoring our command to wait outside, they begin an assault on Umaril's golden Aurorans. After felling the foul foes, our party then awaits for us to use the Aeliad push block so they can explore the nearby chamber. And as we follow close behind up the stairs, to the northeast lies a great throne room, housing an ambush of Meridia's foul Daedra, and all pandemonium breaks loose.
For Akatosh and the Nine! I wonder if Umaril will dare face
the Nine!
Akatosh, endure!
Yar!
The Aurorans, now destroyed, and the sword of the Crusader, proving much more than a match for mere lesser Daedra, we move up the stairs and delve deeper into the ruin's next area, labelled Cecil. Entering, we see the Crusaders are now in two distinct files, awaiting us to engage the push block and our assault. Inside the next large chamber is a floating orb on the second level, and more Daedra below, protecting their dwelling. And as we begin the familiar rhythm of combat, this time, something sinister awaits. As if out of some horror movie, the Aurorans previously felled rise to their feet once again. Only when they are re-deaded does Sir Lathon exclaim.
The orb restores them to life. How can we defeat them?
So, we must destroy the orb or the Aurorans will never know death, and we will surely succumb to our wounds, as they cannot. With this new knowledge, we peel off from the group through the western door, contending with a straggler Auroran, and mount the steps. Seeing the ominous orb emanating dark magic, we reach out and touch the orb, and as we do, it grows dull, robbed of its resurrection abilities and shattering, yet somehow held suspended in a final twisted mockery of gravity. And a gust of magicka blows through the room, and as we turn to see our fellow brothers in arms, we see the previously invisible wall has simply shifted, creating a barrier between us and pushing them out of the room, and now we know we are on our own. It's then we make our way down the stairs, pilfering the paltry potions from the pottery on either side of the door before entering the final area, Karak Abaran. Descending the ruin's final staircase, we're met with a darkened hall with a circular pool on the floor and dimly lit throne on the second level surveying the room. As we approach, the torches on either side of us spring to life with an otherworldly flame, and the stairs to the second floor ascend, revealing Umaril, the unfeathered, confidently stalks towards us and barks a greeting in an unfamiliar Ayleid tongue. Although we successfully block and absorb the shock damage of Umaril's first assault, we weave between his strikes and hack at him. And he growls an animalistic cry of pain before bearing down on us again with his large two-handed sword, which he casually tosses between sword arms. Sensing we need to gain some advantage over his great height, we head for the high ground, yet he swiftly pursues us. Not even the pillars by the throne can protect us from his extensive reach and large sword. Nearly succumbing to blood loss thanks to our careless footwork, we gulp potions thirstily in an attempt to stave off death, even resorting to eating the hearts of felled Aurorans as a last-ditch means of survival. We then switch tactics, realizing the Divines have imparted on us their greatest tools to defeat the Daedra, and we begin to rely more on the armor and shields they have gifted, reflecting Umaril's unholy spell damage back at him, and utilizing key timing to weave in between his strikes and slash with the Crusader's sword. However, we realize we're beginning to fatigue versus a Daedra's infinite resolve, and so, descending the stairs, we take the reprieve to heal our wounds thanks to Mara's mercy, and probing for an advantageous footing, see our path to leave is fully blocked, and Umaril continues to stalk us down. Instead, we turn and race back up the stairs for perhaps the final time to face down the Sorcerer King for our last assault, ducking behind his ancient throne. Vanity spurs on the Sorcerer King as he sprints to end the encounter prematurely, and in turn we let out an enraged bellow, hacking deep into the Daedra's torso wildly, stabbing between his own thrusts until he finally succumbs to his wounds. As the Sorcerer King crumples to the floor, our quest updates reading: I've destroyed Umaril's physical form. If the prophet told me true, I must cast the blessing of Talos on myself, and I will follow Umaril's spirit to a place where he can be destroyed. Searching the corpse of the fallen Ayleid, we find nothing on his body other than a cruel smear still staining his countenance. However, to his left, his formidable weapon, Umaril's sword, is a leveled enchanted claymore. True to the nature of Umaril and his Aurorans, the blade does a leveled amount of shock damage on strike, and it also does a leveled damage fatigue strike as well. Momentarily pausing to rest, we begin our second and perhaps most critical phase of our assault, and by casting the Blessing of Talos on ourselves, our vision is blanketed in white as we meet Umaril inside of his spirit realm in which he retreated. Looking down, we see we're far above Cyrodiil, and wasting no time, Umaril presses his attack, cursing our very presence in his sacred realm. With nowhere to run, we press our assault on the monolithic creature high above Cyrodiil, praying our sword lands true and our fate in the hands of the divines. With Umaril utterly destroyed, we accept succumbing to our wounds as a white light engulfs our vision. Miraculously, our vision returns and we find ourselves in the Priory. It's then our journal update saying, Umaril is utterly destroyed, and I've completed my holy quest. But how did we survive?
Crusader, arise, stand and face the light. Breathe again, and receive your reward. You have completed your divine task. You have restored the order. You have defeated the enemy of the Nine. The order shall serve as the sword and the shield of the Nine in the dark times to come. We owe you a debt of thanks. You have succeeded where we could not. You and your knights have held true to your purpose. At long last, our purgatory is at an end. We go to the glory of the Nine to serve in their host in the life beyond this one. You may call upon our spirits when you need us. Simply pray at our tombs, and each of us will grant you a blessing from the Nine. May your sword serve the Nine all the days of your life, Crusader. Farewell.
After Sir Amiel's moving speech, he and his fellow Crusaders dissipate, departing for Aetherius, and we know they will rest well with our task complete and Umaril felled forever. And so, we then move to place our Crusaders' relics on the armor stand and instead don a simple cloth robe. Turning to leave, we see, as promised, if we were to visit each of the tombs of the Crusaders, they impart a blessing thanks to their respective divine patron.
Dibella has strengthened your wit and charm. Never allow the beauty of the world to be lost on your eyes.
Then, moving to exit the Undercroft via the armory, Sir Thedric rushes to meet us, exclaiming,
Lord Crusader, how can this be? You're alive! It's a miracle! I heard voices in the Undercroft, and I came to investigate. You vanished in Garlus Malatar. After the battle, we searched further into the ruin and found you next to Umaril's corpse. You had no wounds on your body, but you were dead. I saw it with my own eyes. You did not draw breath. We laid you to rest in the Undercroft. We kept your death a secret. We feared what would happen if our enemies thought you were dead.
Even death cannot stop the Crusaders.
I can see that. You'll have to excuse me. I need a moment to collect my thoughts.
Understandably so. The wonders of the Nine are many.
Indeed, they are. We knew you had succeeded in destroying Umaril's physical form, but it seemed that you had met the same fate as Pelinal Whitestrake. Tell me, was Umaril destroyed?
Rest assured, I have severed his very soul.
Then he is destroyed. We've won.
Of course, I destroyed him utterly.
I never doubted you, Crusader, but I must tell the others that you're alive.
Theodred then races out of the armory and up the stairs through the Priory's main doors, and as we catch up to him, we can then see all of the Crusaders alive and well, awaiting our arrival, in which he exclaims,
Knights of the Nine, hear me. Today we have witnessed undeniable proof of the strength and the might of the gods we serve. Slain in battle with the dread Umaril, by the grace and mercy of the Nine, the Crusader lives again. How can this be, you ask? What of our foe? What has become of Umaril the unfeathered? Umaril has been slain by the Crusader. His very spirit cast into the void and destroyed for all eternity. He will never rise again. Let us give thanks to the Nine. By their power, the Crusader has rid the world of Umaril forever. Hail the Lord Crusader!
Hail the Lord Crusader is arisen! Hail, Commander.
Yes, Commander?
Greetings, Sir Knight. I am at your service, Commander.
Tell me, what now for the Knights of the Nine?
The Order lives once more. Pelinal himself would be proud of what we've accomplished. You too.
With the threat of Umaril forever quelled, we leave the Priory in the capable hands of the Crusaders and travel into Cyrodiil once more, in search of adventure, as we'd heard of a strange door that had appeared in the Niben, and were looking to explore its existence.